Chapter 188. Mu Zhenming frowned slightly and said simply, "The juniors of the Ji family have been fighting fiercely recently." His words were implicit. Mu Zilian and Mu Zichu were in this circle after all, so they understood a little. Although the Ji family was a family with a strong foundation, the internal power struggle was equally fierce. There were even people who secretly tampered with things. Mu Zichu and the others had heard some news. Ji Qiue's son, the boy brought back by Qiao Jin's biological mother, was one of the most influential people in the Ji family now. The competition between the younger generation was very fierce. Ji Qiue's second wife, a mistress, had already caused a lot of criticism. If Qiao Jin's matter was exposed, that woman had actually brought back Ji Qiue's biological son back then. She must have used some tricks. What was going on wasn't something that others could imagine. It wasn't wise for Qiao Jin to get involved with the Ji family now. This was because Qiao Jin had just said that the boy was Ji Qiue's biological son, but he wasn't Qiao Jin's biological mother's biological son. If the biological mother abandoned Qiao Jin and brought the boy back, there were many reasons behind this. Mu Zilian was also deep in thought. That's indeed not suitable for Qiao Jin to go back. We can't tell anyone about this. After he said this, he looked excited and gossipy. I want to know how Qiao Jin's biological mother did it. She sounded like a powerful person. After all, in a family like the Ji family that valued status, being able to rise as a mistress was simply a skill. Of course, that was Qiao Jin's biological mother. Qiao Jin himself was innocent. They didn't have any dislike for Qiao Jin. Furthermore, he had been abandoned at birth. There was nothing worse than this. If he hadn't met Xiao Fei, who knew what his life would have been like? This biological mother was really ruthless. They all looked at Qiao Jin. Qiao Jin just shook his head. I've only divined so much for now. I'll only know more when I meet this woman. After all, there were no clues. It was already heaven-defying to be able to tell their relationship. If they wanted to know more, they had to see the real person and use an array formation to divine. Only then could they know the inside door. The three of them unconsciously realized that all this was based on Qiao Jin's divination. She spoke with certainty, but there was no evidence. They couldn't verify whether she was the daughter of the Ji family or not. What if she was talking nonsense? Mu Zhenming changed the topic. When did you learn to do fortune-telling? Qiao Jin, recently, self-taught on the internet. Everyone, there was no way to chat. Mu Zhenming even had the illusion that he was a mentally retarded person if he were to seriously analyze the situation for her. Perhaps Xiao Fei was right. After all, she was in the hospital and her brain was a little stimulated. She might not have recovered yet. As an adoptive father, he couldn't be too harsh on this adopted daughter. Thus, he nodded and lost interest in asking. He only said, "I'll go in and take care of your mother." After he left, Mu Zilian directly said, "Whether it's true or not, we'll know if Uncle Ji's wife looks like Qiao Jin. If they were biological, they would at least look alike, right?" Mu Zilian had seen Ji Qiue before. To be honest, he didn't think he looked like Qiao Jin. Now, they could only see what his wife looked like. Chapter 189. The Mu family and the Ji family only got to know each other in recent years, and Ji Qiue's first wife had accompanied her son abroad for many years. Therefore, these juniors had never seen her before and naturally had no memory of her. They didn't know if they looked alike. Mu Zichu frowned and said, "Don't cause trouble. This matter couldn't be known by the Ji family." Mu Zilian was a restless person. Mu Zilian rolled his eyes. "I'm just looking for a chance to take a look. Who knows what I want to do? Besides, I might not be able to see her. It is said that his wife only comes back during the new year. We might not be able to see her even if we visit her during the new year." He was telling the truth. If they wanted to see her, they had to see if they had the luck. Qiao Jin stood up and said, "Qi Lian, Qi Chu, I just said it to let you know. There is no other meaning." She paused for a moment before continuing, "You are my family." She was not good at saying such warm words. She just wanted to reassure them. Mu Zilian was still a little awkward at this moment. Not biological. After saying that, he went back to his room. Musichu also looked at Xiao Jin and said, "You make your own decisions." Xiao Jin pursed her lips and smiled. The people of the Mu family were all open-minded. Even if they had any doubts, they would be considerate and not ask too much. It made it convenient for her to do many things. After Xiao Jin returned to her room, she still remembered that she had promised Song Yanqing. She called him and told him about the Feng family. The Feng family, Song Yanqing on the other side of the phone muttered and revealed some information that he had known before. "My father had contact with them in the early years and said that their family was indeed strange. Now it seems that everything has a reason. It was because of other people's luck that they could reproduce and grow to this day." Xiao Jin asked, "I remember that you have an aunt who married into the Feng family?" "Yes." Song Yanqing answered her naturally. At the same time, he didn't avoid telling her the real reason: the business marriage is secondary. "My aunt took a fancy to the uncle of the Feng family. Since that's the case, I want to know if the matter of borrowing luck will affect her." "Yes." Xiao Jin also answered straightforwardly. She married into the Feng family and was tainted with the Feng family's fortune. If there is a problem with the clan's fortune, she will naturally be affected. However, this kind of thing can't be said for sure. If she is blessed and is a kind-hearted person, it won't have too much of an impact on her. The clan's fate is most deeply implicated in the bloodline. Outsiders who have no connection with the Feng family will at most be enveloped by the Feng family's fate. The consequences will depend on themselves. For example, Song Yanqing's aunt had nothing to do with Xiao Jin. She married into the Feng family, and she had nothing to do with the Feng family in terms of bloodline. If something happened to the clan's fortune, it would ruin the good news that the Feng family's descendants enjoyed. If this aunt was an outsider, the ones who would have an accident when the clan's fortune was broken would only be those who had evil intentions, such as Feng Fei He and Arzu. It had nothing to do with outsiders. The premise was that they really didn't borrow the Feng family's fate to do anything. Otherwise, the karma would still be settled. Who let Xiao Jin's karma be too strong? Song Yanqing understood. He thought for a while and didn't say too much to Xiao Jin on this matter. It was probably inappropriate. However, the matter of borrowing luck made Song Yanqing vigilant. The Feng family and the Song family had indeed cooperated closely recently. It seemed that it was necessary to distinguish clearly. Chapter 190. The next day, it was time for Xiao Jin to take the exam. The professional exam and the basic exam. Xiao Jin had been studying for so long. Needless to say, the professional exam was not a problem. With Song Yanqing's tutoring, the basic exam was not a problem. The school was a key school. Xiao Jin's personal requirements were not so strict. It was fine as long as it was good enough. After all, she did not expect to do well in the exam to be of much use to her. Her academic performance used to be above average. Later, it slipped and became bad. Now, it was good enough to be above average. Of course, there were a lot of excellent students in this school. They also had a lot of certificates. They had even started to study for a master's degree in advance to participate in various competitions. Even Musilian and Musichu had to go abroad to participate in some competition finals. They were not at the same level as Xiao Jin, who was a salted fish. Xiao Jin did not care. She was even happy to be relaxed. After the exam, Xiao Jin received a call from Song Yanqing. "Have you finished the exam?" As Xiao Jin sipped on her milk tea, she listened to the low and deep voice on the other end of the line. "Just in time. I'm in a restaurant near your school. Do you want to come over for a meal?" "Sure." Xiao Jin answered very directly. After asking for the address, she went to Song Yanqing. Anyway, the food she ate with Song Yanqing tasted very good. She arrived at a restaurant in Sakura Island. When she entered the private room, Xiao Jin saw that not only was Song Yanqing sitting in the private room, but there was also an unfamiliar face. With a handsome and clean face and a sunny and cheerful feeling, he was like the boy next door. His hair was flaxen curls. The fluffy feeling added a bit of childishness to him, showing a bit of cuteness. His eyes were very bright, especially when he saw Xiao Jin. Xiao Jin raised her eyebrows. Song Yanqing had already raised his head naturally and explained to her, my aunt's son, who married into the Feng family, is my cousin, Feng Qian. They had just talked about the other party's mother yesterday, and now their son was here? Qiao Jin sat down and nodded in greeting. Hello. Song Yanqing added, Qian just came back from abroad. Qiao Jin's relationship with the Feng family was relatively ordinary, but it was not to the extent that he disliked everyone in the Feng family. This Feng Qian was still okay. The grey aura between his eyebrows was not heavy. Obviously, he was affected, but it was not to the extent of serious harm. Then this person was not the same type as Feng Fei He. The man looked at Qiao Jin as if he was looking at a wonder. Your brother Yanqing's friends. Song Yanqing spoke very naturally. His light eyes slowly landed on Phoenix Grace. Qiao Jin grew up in China. He's not as open as you. Watch your words. Wow. Phoenix Qianan pursed her lips and acted coquettishly towards Song Yanqing. Isn't it because I haven't seen any other friends around brother Yanqing? When he smiled, he even had dimples on his cheeks. Qiao Jin could not help but glance at Phoenix Qianan. In a place like the Feng family, was he pretending to have such a temperament, or was it real? She could not see a person with a hard fate, so she had to guess. Phoenix Qianan belonged to those with a hard fate, which meant that he was a person with a good fate. Song Yanqing handed the menu to Qiao Jin and let her order what she liked. He then looked at Phoenix Qianan. I heard that you have a girlfriend? Yes. Phoenix Qianan's eyes turned. But she's not my girlfriend. I'm still chasing her. I just met her. You definitely haven't heard of her. She's a female celebrity called Fan Jin. Qiao Jin, so this was involved. Chapter 191. Fan Jin was one of the female celebrities who came to her for fortune-telling. In the end, she found out that she was cheated and left the industry sadly. After reading the news, she probably went abroad to relax. Logically speaking, Fan Jin shouldn't know Feng Qian. Now that Feng Qian mentioned it, it could only mean that the two met abroad. It wasn't too long ago. Qiao Jin didn't show that he knew her, but Song Yanqing didn't know. Female celebrity? He frowned slightly. It seemed that he wasn't very optimistic. Feng Qian knew what his cousin was thinking. He immediately sat up straight and said, Brother, I know what you're thinking. Don't worry, Fan Jin isn't like other female celebrities. Her path is clean and there are no messy things. If that was the case, my mother wouldn't have agreed to let me pursue her. Although the Feng family's reputation wasn't very good, it was impossible for their outstanding bloodline to pursue a female celebrity with a bad reputation. Although many of the Feng family's children and grandchildren were involved with many female celebrities. Song Yanqing didn't have much interaction with the entertainment industry, but he had heard a lot of messy things in it. There were too few innocent female celebrities who could reach this stage of fame without messy things. Hearing Feng Qian say this, Song Yanqing's voice was calm. As long as you like it. Feng Qian suddenly smiled very brightly. When he smiled, his eyes seemed to have starlight. It gave people a very sweet feeling. It was as sweet as honey. Qiao Jin pursed his lips and smiled. It wasn't that he was bewitched by the other party's smile, but he felt that such a boy was really rare. Feng Qian noticed Qiao Jin's smile and looked at Qiao Jin with bright eyes. Little sister, how old are you this year? How do you know my brother? Song Yanqing, 20 years old, younger than you. I'm still in my second year of university. Feng Qian. I'm sorry, little sister. He thought that someone who could play with his brother would at least be of the same age. Qiao Jin, Feng Qian was 2 years younger than Song Yanqing. He was 23 years old this year. As if he wanted to make up for it, Phoenix Qianan looked at Qiao Jin and said, You are so beautiful. He wasn't trying to flatter her on purpose. At the very least, everyone who saw Qiao Jin could say that she was beautiful. There was no trace of makeup on her face. He didn't know if she was born without makeup, but at least her skin was really good. It was delicate and white, and could be called flawless jade, just like his brother's. Feng Qianan's praise was so sweet that it was easy to make people burst with joy. However, Qiao Jin was not as excited as he had imagined. He even said with a serious expression, "I know." She was very clear about the fact that she was beautiful. Phoenix Chen Yen. When Song Yanqing saw that Phoenix Chen Yen was about to lose control of her expression, he actually let out a chuckle. When Phoenix Grace saw the smile on Song Yanqing's face, he opened his mouth wide in disbelief. Song Yanqing quickly noticed his gaffe. The smile on his lips softened a little. He turned his head and slightly lowered his head to look at Qiao Jin. "What do you like to eat? Have you decided?" His tone was a little gentler than the others. Qiao Jin didn't remember eating Sakura cuisine. She didn't like raw food, so she ordered a few fruit sushi and eel rolls. Other than that, Qiao Jin had been very quiet. Song Yanqing and Feng Chenan talked about some trivial things. He suddenly came back. He heard about Song Yanqing's incident some time ago and specially came to see him. If it weren't for the fact that the news of Song Yanqing's accident was kept secret, he would have rushed back. Chapter 192. Phoenix Chenan was a talkative person. Most of the time, he was the one who spoke while Song Yanqing listened. Phoenix Chenan only thought that Song Yanqing was like this, but when he talked to Qiao Jin responded lazily and occasionally used 2mm words to brush him off. He was just like his brother. He now knew why the other party could get along well with his cousin. The eel rolls tasted good, and the fruit sushi was also very delicious. Qiao Jin ate happily. After eating, Song Yanqing asked someone to send Phoenix Chenan away. He and Qiao Jin talked alone. 2 days ago, Qiao Jin mentioned something. Song Yanqing gave him a clear answer at this time. "It's not appropriate for me to go to the spirit group." Qiao Jin made a sound of millimeter and turned to look at him. He did not directly ask why. Song Yanqing slowly explained, "I learned some information about the spirit group. Several families are involved. The Song family originally did not get involved in these things. If I join the spirit group, people will suspect that I want to get involved. They will be on guard against me in advance. It will be somewhat disadvantageous to your plan." Qiao Jin nodded. "That's true." Song Yanqing smiled slowly. "But it doesn't matter. I have arranged for people in the spirit group. When I get any clues, you will know." Qiao Jin thought for a moment. "You said that the Song family does not participate in these things. Then how do you know about the spirit group? Some things are just not involved, so they ignore the clues. My father also learned about the spirit group. After I learned about it, he transferred the information in his hands to me. In the past, he did not let Song Yanqing know about these things. Now that he knew, it was not a big deal to participate." Qiao Jin suddenly understood. Song Yanqing glanced at her. "Is today's sushi delicious?" Qiao Jin, "Delicious." Song Yanqing pursed his lips and smiled. "You can come more often if you like." "Okay, I'll come here more often when I earn some money," Wang Yaro said. The food was delicious, and the price was also very good. A single meal was equivalent to half a year's worth of expenses for an ordinary family. For the current Qiao Jin, it was too outrageous. Song Yanqing laughed. "If you want to eat, I can bring you here anytime." "That won't do. There are some things that need to be clarified." Qiao Jin shook his head. "I can't take advantage of you. I'll treat you another day. I'll make a lot of money soon." Song Yanqing's expression became even gentler. "Okay." He didn't ask how Qiao Jin was going to make a lot of money. Presumably, she had her own considerations. At this moment, Qiao Jin's expression froze. "Put me down in front, I have something to do." Song Yanqing was going to take her home, and the car was still on the way. Song Yanqing found it a little strange, but he didn't ask much. He only said, "Okay." He asked the driver to stop on the street in front and watched Qiao Jin get out of the car. Looking at her disappearing back view, Song Yanqing fell into deep thought. The dim light from the street lamps outside the car window refracted in, casting an arc on his perfect jawline. Occasionally, the sound of laughter and chatter from passers-by drifted past the car window. Song Yanqing felt that Qiao Jin's departure just now had a deeper meaning. In the dim light, the man was silent for a long time before he finally said, stop here for a while. The driver replied respectfully, okay, young master. There were many expensive cars in the capital, but now, they saw one parked on the side of the road, and passers-by took a few photos as they passed by. Song Yanqing raised his hand and looked at the watch on his wrist. It was 6:30. His break time was almost up. Chapter 193. The reason why Qiao Jin got out of the car was because she sensed danger. This danger was none other than the fact that a month was up and her backlash was coming. Under such circumstances, she couldn't predict what would happen to her. Song Yanqing's life providence was unstable to begin with. It was best not to get close to him. Otherwise, not only would it easily cause an accident, but both of them would be easily implicated. The intuition of danger was very strong and mysterious. In fact, Qiao Jin couldn't sense where the danger was. After all, this was her backlash. If she knew everything, the punishment for her resurrection would be too easy. The coldness that seeped into her bones had already begun to invade Qiao Jin's body. The streets were extremely lively. Passers-by laughed as they walked past. It was a bustling scene. In such an atmosphere, there were occasional dark corners. It was as if there were ferocious beasts that were waiting for the right time to tear Qiao Jin apart and devour her. Qiao Jin had accumulated a few cadaveric auras and demonized spirit seeds. She wasn't afraid of today's danger. However, when danger came, she needed to react quickly. She stood on the streets and attracted the attention of many people because of her beautiful appearance. She was dressed casually today. She had seaweed-like long hair, exquisite facial features, and porcelain-white skin. Her eyes seemed to glow as she stood there without any makeup. She really looked like a character who had walked out of an anime. A few passers-by walked past and couldn't help but take out their phones to secretly take photos of Qiao Jin. There were both men and women. When it came to the matter of wanting to look good, all humans were actually the same. Under normal circumstances, normal people would admire a beautiful person. Qiao Jin scanned her surroundings. The chances of something happening on the streets weren't high. However, with her backlash, anything could happen. She wanted to avoid it. After all, she was only a mortal. Even if she was stabbed, the chances of her dying were very high. Although the chances of others hurting her weren't high, she had to guard against sudden accidents. Catcher, it was a very soft sound. The streets were very noisy. Logically speaking, it shouldn't have been heard. But Qiao Jin heard it. The voice came out of nowhere. Her eyelashes trembled slightly, and she turned around without hesitation in the next second. Bang! A huge billboard came crashing down from where she had been standing. It almost brushed past Qiao Jin's body as it fell. The chill was enough to make one's scalp tingle. The huge accident caused the passers-by to scream. Qiao Jin suddenly turned around, and in less than a second, the billboard in front of her fell into two halves. Just the strength of the steel bars, if it had hit her directly, the consequences would have been unimaginable. Even the debris from the fall splashed onto her body. Because the speed was too fast, a piece of debris even brushed against her exposed arm, leaving a sharp wound. Dark red blood instantly gushed out of the wound. Even so, her expression remained calm. He only covered his arm and narrowed his eyes. It was not over yet. This scene was like a scene from a foreign blockbuster, Final Destination. The danger was undetectable. Everything happened reasonably and naturally, so no one could see any problems with it. If Qiao Jin had reacted a little slower, she wouldn't have been able to dodge it. "Miss, your hand is bleeding. Are you okay?" A passerby girl came forward in a panic. At the same time, she hurriedly took out a pack of tissues and band-aids from her bag and handed them to Qiao Jin. Chapter 194. In the face of the passerby's kindness, Qiao Jin pursed her lips and smiled. "Thank you." The passerby was bewitched by her smile and blushed. At the same time, she asked worriedly, "Do you need me to send you to the hospital?" It was too dangerous just now. Many people gathered around. Some of them clearly saw that if Qiao Jin hadn't suddenly turned around, she would have been hit by the billboard. It was simply too terrifying. The reason was simple. She had been resurrected in an unreasonable way, so karma would make her disappear in a reasonable way. Just like how accidents would happen to ordinary people, no one knew that these things were predestined. No need, I'm fine. Xiao Jin took the tissue and band-aid from the passerby and looked at the girl again with a bright smile. Thank you. You're a good person. So, good karma will come. She turned around and quickly left. If she was here, she might have implicated others because this kind of thing couldn't be said to be targeted only at her. If she bumped into an unlucky person who was about to die, it was very likely that they would suffer together. The passerby watched her leave in a daze. She had almost been hit by the billboard just now. As passers-by, they were all scared, but this girl didn't have any reaction at all. But she was really beautiful. Her skin was really good up close. She looked like a porcelain doll. As Xiao Jin walked, she put the band-aid that the passerby had given her on her wrist. The wound wasn't big. After wiping it with the tissue and applying the band-aid, the bleeding stopped. However, there were still people following her in secret. Naturally, it was the spirit group. Seeing that Xiao Jin had almost been hit by the billboard, the two people who were watching her were stunned. Her precognitive ability is so strong. That was a fatal danger, just for a second. That's not right. If she knew there was danger, why was she still there? The two people were suspicious, but they continued to follow Xiao Jin. The place where the billboard had fallen had attracted a lot of attention. Because it happened to be outside a shop, the shop owner was almost scared to death. Fortunately, no one was hurt. The young lady standing under the billboard was too lucky. As Xiao Jin walked forward, the sense of danger lingered around her like a shadow. There was an even greater danger. This feeling of not being able to test was actually not very good, but Xiao Jin did not seem to be too flustered. He had experienced similar things several times, so he had a little experience. When she reached a crossroad, she knew that it was very dangerous. Because of the dense traffic here, accidents were more likely to happen. But sometimes, Xiao Jin's intuition told him to go there because he knew it was more dangerous. If he could avoid it, then so be it. I can't avoid it. Oh, it's just another death, not to mention that I can still use death energy at the crucial moment. When she was walking on the side of the road, an arrogant roar of a car came from behind her. The sound was so loud that it attracted people's attention. She turned her head and saw a dazzling white supercar speeding over, but it stopped in front of Xiao Jin in an instant. Seeing Xiao Jin, a handsome face wearing sunglasses appeared in the sports car. The other party had an evil smile on his face. Alone. Clearly, this was a rich second-generation heir. A rich second-generation heir who was ready to pick up girls. The other party's appearance was also not bad. Coupled with the high-end shirt he was wearing and his appearance, it was enough to make the hearts of many girls flutter. Chapter 195. Xiao Jin stared at the other party, but the smile at the corner of her mouth was a little cold. Why did you follow me? What? The other party was stunned for a moment. He saw Xiao Jin just now because he saw that Xiao Jin was beautiful, a type he had never seen before. He wanted to hunt for a beauty, so he took the initiative to chase after her. Otherwise, with his identity, there were plenty of women following him, so he didn't have to find a random one on the side of the road. A rich second generation driving a sports car to hit on a beauty, this scene attracted a lot of attention, and many people looked over. Let's get to know each other, my name is. Before he finished speaking, Xiao Jin's eyes showed a trace of pity. It's too late. Squeak, boom, vroom, a few hurried honks and screeching brakes sounded. Xiao Jin was originally standing on the side of the road, and the traffic opposite her was clearly red, but suddenly a car rushed out and ran the red light as if it had lost control. That wasn't all. A large truck drove straight from the green light, and its speed wasn't slow. Seeing that it couldn't dodge in time, it subconsciously turned the steering wheel. Bang! The two cars collided in an instant. All of this happened in a short 2 seconds, and no one knew that such an accident would happen. Amid the shocking screams of the passers-by, the collision caused a chain reaction. Another large truck sped out at the same time and was forced to change direction, implicating a few cars at the same time. The steering wheels of the cars were all messed up, but they all seemed to be rushing in the same direction. It was the direction of Xiao Jin. The car parked in front of Xiao Jin was the rich second-generation heir's sports car. When he saw the big truck coming toward him, his pupils constricted. However, it was too late for him to drive away because the two cars were connected. The car that ran the red light and was hit by the big truck was brought over, blocking his way forward. Moreover, all of this happened too quickly. In just a few seconds, the large truck went straight for him. Bang! A tragic car accident occurred at the scene. The large truck and several cars collided directly with the sports car. At that moment, the passers-by were almost scared out of their wits. They saw the white sports car being smashed into pieces with their own eyes. With such a tragic degree, even if the person in the car was a god, he wouldn't be able to survive, and there was a girl at the intersection next to the car. A few passers-by happened to pass by in that direction, and Xiao Jin had already run in the other direction when the large truck rushed over. The large truck happened suddenly, and 1 or 2 seconds was enough for Xiao Jin to react to the extreme. More importantly, there was an unlucky person in front of her to block. She was so fast that she almost brushed against the truck's tires and fell to the ground. Bang! The truck and the car crashed into the wall before coming to a stop. The entire front of the truck was smashed into pieces, and the driver inside was knocked unconscious. However, it was obvious that he would be fine. Because of the sudden braking, the truck hit the white sports car and was slowed down. When it crashed into the wall, it happened to stop and reduce the impact. Xiao Jin fell next to the large truck, and the split door of the sports car smashed toward her. She became calmer when she was in extreme danger. While others couldn't see, she moved her fingers, and the door was forced to smash to the side. The sense of danger disappeared. She lay on the ground, panting a little, but she was relieved. She lay on the ground and looked at the sports car that had been completely flattened at this time from the corner of her eyes. The people inside definitely couldn't survive. They were the people from the Feng family. Chapter 196. There were earth-shattering screams all around, as well as the sound of countless people crying in fear. The scene of the car accident was a mess. The white sports car was crushed without a trace. However, Xiao Jin knew that only one member of the Feng family had an accident. The others might have suffered minor injuries, but it did not affect them too much. The accident was targeted at her. Who knew that a member of the Feng family would suddenly appear? This was really unstoppable. The Feng family had recently accepted her karma. If this person did not follow, he could still be free for a while. The aura of death on his body was extremely heavy. The karma erosion had just begun. He should not have been affected so much. It could only mean that this person was not a kind person. His hands were stained with human lives, and most of the backlash was forcefully suppressed after borrowing the Feng family's luck. As a result, as soon as he came into contact with Xiao Jin, the family's luck lost its protection and died a tragic death. She spat out a mouthful of dust. When she fell to the ground just now, she still had some impact on her body. The backlash of karma was really ruthless. It blinded her perception and tried to kill her. Although her own karma was extremely strong, she would not be careless when she suffered the backlash. After all, being reborn was against the heavens. The front of the truck was blocked by a car. She was lying in the middle. She could not use her strength to directly lift the car. Otherwise, she would be on the headlines. She was lying on her stomach at this time. When she turned her head, she could still see the remains of the man's body. The car was already in such a state and he had died a tragic death. The upper half of his body that was still attached to his head was still staring at Xiao Jin. Xiao Jin just watched calmly. Now that she saw the evil debt on the other party's body, even she wanted to sneer. Is he dead? Oh my god, the car is completely cracked. Woo woo woo, I will have psychological trauma for the rest of my life. What is that? Is that a leg? There is also a beautiful girl. I saw it. A beautiful girl was also hit. It's too tragic. It's really unfortunate. People were discussing. Some people collapsed and screamed. Some people cried on the spot. Some people were so frightened by the tragic scene that they lost their minds. This was probably a psychological trauma for many people. There were a few drivers in the car. They opened the door and walked out, trembling. They were only dizzy and slightly injured. To be chosen as the accident to kill Xiao Jin, they were more or less unlucky recently. The drivers were scared out of their wits. They did not expect such a tragic thing to happen. There was a female driver in the car that was blocking Xiao Jin's way. Her car door was deformed and she could not squeeze out. She sat in the car and sobbed. Xiao Jin raised her hand and patted her car door. She sighed and shouted, "Help." His voice was weak, and if one listened carefully, it sounded a little perfunctory. The female driver screamed in fright. When she came to her senses and saw Xiao Jin, she let out an "ah" and shouted excitedly, "Someone is injured here. She's still alive." Fortunately, it was just a car accident. She did not lose her mind. Of course, the premise was that she did not see the man's body. When the crowd heard the cry for help, they moved over. There were already traffic police nearby. They were probably having a heart attack. It had been a long time since they saw such a big car accident. Xiao Jin lay there for about half an hour before a tow truck came to drag the deformed car out. Xiao Jin was successfully rescued. Of course, as a normal girl who saw a man's body, she was naturally scared out of her wits. Chapter 197. In fact, Xiao Jin could feel everything. About 10 minutes later, she felt a familiar figure approaching. "How is she?" As usual, the elegant harp voice, gentle tone, and every word was powerful, but at this moment, it seemed a little anxious. There was a faint gasp in the crowd. Obviously, they were shocked by his appearance. Then, Xiao Jin felt that her arm was held by someone. She fainted. It should be the shock of the car accident. "We are now sending the injured to the hospital for examination." Song Yanqing was silent for a moment. RZE squeezed in from the back and saw Song Yanqing in the crowd. He was frightened. "Young master, you go first." Then, he saw that it was Xiao Jin who was being carried on the stretcher. He was shocked. How could Miss Qiao? Obviously, in his mind, Miss Qiao would be fine. But Song Yanqing had already caused a stir. There was no other reason than that he was too beautiful. His tall and straight figure, his elegant bearing, and his handsome face were all gathered on one person. Even the passers-by who came to watch the fun did not dare to even think of getting close to him. They always felt that he had a special kind of arrogance, and if they got closer, it would be sullying him. At this moment, he frowned and looked at the girl lying on the hospital bed. There was obvious worry between his eyebrows. He wished that someone could smooth out the wrinkles between his eyebrows. Song Yanqing felt that something was wrong with Xiao Jin, but Xiao Jin walked fast after all. He stopped and waited for a while until the vibration of the billboard came. He seemed to feel it and was a little worried. He ordered the driver to follow him. In fact, it had only been 10 minutes since Xiao Jin left him. Such a terrible thing happened in a few minutes. He even regretted that he did not follow him earlier. In his mind, Xiao Jin would be fine. Now that something happened to her, he was a little caught off guard. He held Xiao Jin's hand and used his ability to transmit a belief. She would be fine. He was a spiritualist of words. Not only could he speak, but he could also make his thoughts come true if he was capable enough. Recently, he had been practicing with some small objects, and he had mastered them very quickly. However, just as the thought passed through his mind, he suddenly felt an itch in his palm. Xiao Jin tapped his palm when no one was looking, indicating that he was fine. Song Yanqing paused for a moment, then reacted quickly. His heart immediately relaxed, and his eyebrows flattened. He let go of Xiao Jin's hand. RZE didn't know what was going on. He was still trying to persuade Song Yanqing, "Young master, let's go out first. I have something urgent to tell you." The person who had the accident was a little unexpected. "I will watch Miss Qiao go to the hospital." Song Yanqing nodded and withdrew from the crowd. Others even automatically opened a path for him. They just spread out unconsciously. After getting into the car, of course, he would not go back. Instead, he would accompany Xiao Jin to the hospital. This happened too strangely. As soon as RZE got into the car, his expression was a little ugly. "Young master, a person died in the car accident just now. Do you know who that person is?" Song Yanqing raised his eyes slightly.
Who?
RZE sighed and said, the third son of the second son of the Feng family, Feng Yibing. Although he was born outside, he was very favored by his father. Relying on the fact that his father was a member of the Feng family, he did a lot of evil outside. He killed a few people and was suppressed by the Feng family. Now that he died like this, the Feng family will probably go crazy. Hearing this, Song Yanqing's eyes suddenly became cold. Chapter 198. Qiao Jin told him about borrowing luck. He knew about the Feng family's tricks. Now the Feng family was dead. After all, Feng Qianyan was his cousin. There was nothing wrong with the Song family looking after him. Song Yanqing didn't know much about the other Feng family members, but he knew that some of the younger generation of the Feng family did terrible things, but they were suppressed by the Feng family. Even Song Shiyin cursed a few words in front of him, saying that the Feng family would be finished sooner or later. It was incredible that no one had an accident for so many years. Now a younger generation died. After being explained by Qiao Jin, he knew the reason why the Feng family was strange. Song Yanqing's first thought was that Feng Yibing and Qiao Jin were at the same car accident scene. Feng Yibing was dead, but she was fine. Would the Feng family think that there was something strange? No, he couldn't let the Feng family trouble Qiao Jin. Under certain circumstances, Song Yanqing was also cold. He wouldn't take a second look at the trash of the Feng family. Others were not worth mentioning to him. Song Yanqing completely calmed down. Let people deal with the car accident scene and keep an eye on the Feng family. If they contact Qiao Jin, let me know at any time. Dan was a little confused, but he still nodded. Okay, young master, let's go to the hospital now. Song Yanqing nodded. Let's go together. I'm worried about Qiao Jin. He didn't say that Qiao Jin was fine. Dan also understood and immediately asked the driver to go to the hospital with the ambulance. After going to the hospital, Qiao Jin woke up. After a round of examination, Qiao Jin was really fine. He could even be discharged from the hospital immediately. Song Yanqing stayed with her and booked a separate VIP ward for her, but Qiao Jin didn't agree. I haven't informed Feifei yet. Sigh, she will cry eventually. It's better to cry at home. Song Yanqing, the people in the hospital originally wanted to inform her family to come over. Seeing that she was fine and that she had her own request, they didn't inform the Mu family for the time being. The Mu family didn't get the news so quickly. After all, no one informed them of the sudden car accident. Qiao Jin looked at Song Yanqing's appearance and smiled. I'm really fine. Take me back. Song Yanqing thought for a moment. Okay. Sitting in the car, Song Yanqing, he thought for a moment and then asked Qiao Jin, what's going on? Qiao Jin answered vaguely, just a small matter. Why would Feng Yibing appear there? That dead man is Feng Yibing. Because she was dead, she didn't bother to find out who he was. Song Yanqing nodded and explained to her, her father is the Feng family's Feng Yingbai, second in rank. Her mother is a mistress. Qiao Jin did not care who it was. This matter had nothing to do with her. During the backfire, she was blinded by karma. It was impossible for her to calculate that there was a member of the Feng family who was about to die there. Since he was dead, it meant that he deserved to die. She had a lot of debts, and she became the first member of the Feng family to be sacrificed. This became a breakthrough. If there was a first, there would be a second. Even if Qiao Jin didn't care, the Feng family had to pay back what they owed others. With the death of Feng Yibing, the gap in the family's luck became more and more obvious. It couldn't be repaired. The two array masters were probably flying into a rage right now. It had nothing to do with her, but as long as she was there, the Feng family would keep an eye on her. It would be troublesome during this time. She clicked her tongue softly. Song Yanqing suddenly touched her wound with a band-aid with his finger. His eyes were deep. Does it hurt? Chapter 199. Qiao Jin was a little puzzled. What's so painful about this? It was just a scratch on her arm. This wound was basically nothing to Qiao Jin. At least it was better than losing her life. Tong glanced at Qiao Jin in the rearview mirror and thought that she was too straightforward. She should at least show the weakness of a woman so that our young master has a reason to comfort her. Now there was no reason to comfort her. Sigh. He sighed like a bodyguard. Song Yanqing pursed his lips and showed a trace of hesitation. Will a similar situation happen again? He still noticed something. Because he had experienced something related to Qiao Jin, he could roughly sense that something was wrong with her. Since her suicide, her personality didn't match her previous experiences. Ordinary people might not be able to see the problem, but now that Song Yanqing had begun to come into contact with this world, he vaguely felt something. Qiao Jin paused for a moment, nodded, and then shook her head. It shouldn't be a big problem. This was the first time that the death aura and the demonic spirit seed she had accumulated weren't enough. If she continued to increase, the backlash wouldn't have much effect on her. She was just testing it today. Sure enough, after being blinded, her intuition was at least still there. Her reaction was also quite fast. The most important thing was that there was someone who wanted to die. It wasn't until they got home that Mu Junming learned about Qiao Jin's car accident because of the news from the Feng family. It wasn't the Feng family who said it, but Feng Yibing's death was now known by the entire upper-class circle. The key was that she died without a complete corpse. Then there was another girl who didn't have any major problems. Mu Junming asked around and almost knew that it was Qiao Jin. He knew some things about the Feng family and vaguely felt that something was wrong. Feng Fei he had a car accident not long ago, and now Feng Yibing was dead. Recently, the Feng family, Mu Junming still informed the family. Qiao Fei cried when she heard the news. When she was about to call Qiao Jin had already arrived home. She came in through the door. When everyone in the house saw Qiao Jin, they were quickly stunned. Heavens, Jin, are you okay? Are you all right? Qiao Fei rushed over. Seeing Qiao Jin come back safely, tears fell out of his eyes. I'm fine. Qiao Jin put his arm around her shoulder and said earnestly, Fei, if I had something to do, would I still be able to come back now? Are you really all right? Didn't you get into a car accident? Qiao Fei raised his head and looked at Qiao Jin from head to toe. Seeing that Qiao Jin was all right, he let out a sigh of relief. Then, she saw the wound on Qiao Jin's arm and became agitated again. Aren't you fine? Qiao Jin. Does that count? Qiao Fei, there are wounds. Oh my God. Qiao Jin. The men behind them calmed down. Seeing that Qiao Jin was indeed fine, they knew that there was nothing serious. Qiao Fei was naturally worried and couldn't stop crying. How long have you been fine? Why did this happen again? In the back hall, Mu Xiangshan slowly walked out and said with a sullen face, We don't know how she is. Why didn't you bring her back to sit down? Why did you let her stand outside? Qiao Fei finally reacted and quickly grabbed Qiao Jin's hand. Let's go in and sit down first. You must be afraid. Don't be afraid, I'm here. Qiao Jin. Chapter 200. After entering the house, Mu Junming looked Qiao Jin up and down. Are you sure you're okay? Qiao Jin was very calm. If not, I should be in the hospital now, not back. Mu Junming nodded and asked, Who sent you back? Qiao Jin, Song Yanqing. Everyone, Mu Xiangshan's eyes widened. I'm hallucinating. Who? Who's Song Yanqing? It wasn't that he didn't know who Song Yanqing was, but it was hard for him to imagine that Qiao Jin would know Song Yanqing. Mu Zichu and the others were able to take it. Mu Zilian said calmly, Grandpa, it's Song Yanqing, the young master of the Song family, the one with a weak body. Don't be surprised. This is nothing. Our Qiao Jin is very capable. Mu Xiangshan, how did she get close to Song Yanqing? Qiao Fei was much more tolerant than before. He sent you back. Why didn't you invite him over? That's so embarrassing. Qiao Jin said naturally, It's okay. He should be resting now. When he's free, he'll come over. Qiao Jin knew that if Song Yanqing came to the Mu family, it would probably cause a commotion. But now wasn't the time. Moreover, Song Yanqing didn't mention coming to the Mu family as a guest. He sent Qiao Jin home and said with a smile, I'll visit uncle and auntie another day. Go home and rest first. Goodbye, Qiao Jin. Then, the two of them said goodbye. Xiao Fei, on the other hand, was much more relieved. If young Master Song really came, she would feel embarrassed. Mu Junming looked at Xiao Jin with a heavy gaze. The man who had an accident today was Feng Yibing of the Feng family. Xiao Jin looked at him and smiled. I don't know. I don't know him. She should not have known Feng Yibing in the first place. Mu Xiangshan couldn't care less about being shocked by Song Yanqing. His face changed a little. What happened? The person who died in the car accident with Xiao Jin was from the Feng family? Mu Zhenming nodded solemnly. I haven't received any specific news from the Feng family yet, but Feng Yongshe called and asked me. I guess this matter is a little troublesome. The Feng family is dead. Mu Zilian and Mu Zichu looked at each other. They had heard of Feng Yibing's name, but they had never seen her before. The other party was different from Feng Fei He. She was favored by the Feng family. She was usually arrogant and did not interact with them. However, he had heard quite a lot of bad things about him. Mu Zilian curled his lips and sneered, isn't it better if he dies? He should have died 1,000 times over for what he did. Mu Zhenming's eyes were cold. Shut up. Even if he deserved to die, he couldn't say it out loud. With the Feng family's character of seeking revenge for the smallest grievance, they would never let Mu Zilian have an easy time. Mu Xiangshan also frowned. The Feng family is in trouble, but what does this have to do with Xiao Jin? Xiao Jin also looked innocent. Yes, what does this have to do with me? I don't even know him. Xiao Fei was also a little worried. Why do you make it sound so scary? What's wrong with the Feng family? It's not because of Jin's car accident. Mu Zhenming asked her, what is the specific cause of the car accident? Xiao Jin, a car ran the red light. As a result, the big truck couldn't avoid it and crashed into it. It came in the direction where I was standing. At that time, Feng Yibing's car was also parked there. I was lucky and dodged quickly. I only scratched my skin a little. He didn't dodge in the car. What does this have to do with me? I don't even know him. If others wanted to die quickly, could she stop them? However, Mu Zhenming and Mu Xiangshan's expressions did not look relaxed. Chapter 201. They weren't worried for no reason. After cooperating with the Feng family, they knew a little about the Feng family's style of doing things. The current Feng family was regarded as a wealthy family in the capital. Unfortunately, among the many families, the Feng family was really petty. This wasn't referring to business, but the character of seeking revenge for the smallest grievance. It was fine if they didn't offend the Feng family. If they offended the Feng family, they would be forced to a dead end. Many families in the capital were destroyed by the Feng family. Even if it was just some basic friction, they would suffer some revenge. On the surface, of course, the Feng family still looked generous. In private, everyone knew the Feng family's style of doing things. Feng Yibing's death indeed had nothing to do with Xiao Jin. But Xiao Jin was the party involved in the car accident, but she was fine. If the Feng family knew, it was hard not to think too much. Now everyone's expressions were a little dignified. Only Xiao Fei, who didn't understand this, was a little confused. Jin had a car accident. She must still be a little scared. Let her go in and rest. Mu Zhenming nodded to Xiao Jin and said, your mother is right. You go up and rest first. We will deal with the rest. Xiao Jin said softly, I'm not afraid, and I'll be fine. You can rest assured. She was referring to the Feng family, but Mu Zhenming and the others thought that Xiao Jin just didn't want them to worry about her being scared in a car accident. After Xiao Fei accompanied Xiao Jin up, Mu Zichu said directly, this has nothing to do with Xiao Jin. It's impossible for the Feng family not to understand. Mu Xiangshan had a meaningful look, it's hard to say. Mu Zhenming said, the surveillance video of the scene needs to be found. Get someone to check it now. Let me see how the car accident happened. His intuition told him that something was wrong. So that night, several people in the Mu family were a little restless. However, their worries were not unreasonable. There was nothing strange in the surveillance video, so there was no need to hide. They found it very clearly. But after watching the car accident, Mu Zhenming felt that this matter probably wouldn't end like this. In the video, Feng Yibing was clearly captured. At that time, he stopped the car and talked to Qiao Jin. In the end, the car accident happened within a few seconds. No one would have thought of such an accident, but if Feng Yibing hadn't stopped, normal people would not think of pushing the responsibility to others, but it was hard to say for the group of people in the Feng family. Feng Yibing was Feng Yingbai's only son. Mu Zhenming had heard of this person in the business world. He was sinister and vicious. Now that his son was dead, he would definitely go crazy. Feng Yingbai's family had no contact with the Mu family, and this matter could not be traced back to the Mu family. But early the next morning, Mu Zhenming received a call from Feng Yongshe. Feng Yongshe said with some hesitation on the phone, "My second brother watched the video of the accident and found that Yibing seemed to be talking to your daughter in the video. Did they know each other before?" Mu Zhenming's eyes darkened. "Of course not. Qiao Jin said last night that she didn't know why Feng Yibing was talking to her." Feng Yongshe sighed. "Zhenming, this call was not my intention, but my second brother wants to see your adopted daughter," Mu Zhenming said directly. "Qiao Jin was frightened after the car accident, so it's not convenient for her to see people. Moreover, the car accident has nothing to do with Qiao Jin. No one wants such an accident to happen. Express my condolences to your second brother." Feng Yongshe, he sneered. Feng Yingbai had his eyes on the Mu family. How could this matter be settled? Chapter 202. As the Mu family expected, when they received the news of Feng Yibing's car accident that night, the Feng family went crazy. Not only Feng Yingbai. Zhu was even more shocked. Someone from the Feng family died. Someone died. This was even more terrifying than the accident itself. For so many years, it was a luxury for the younger generation of the Feng family to get sick. Their family's fate and the Feng family's bloodline were well aware. Now that a younger generation of the Feng family died, this was enough to make the Feng family furious. Not to mention that the one who died was Feng Yibing. Feng Yingbai almost went crazy on the spot when he found out. He only had this one son, and it was a very tragic way of dying. He died without an intact body. Feng Yibing's mother was so shocked by the news that she fainted and didn't wake up until the next day. The Feng family's power couldn't be underestimated. They figured out everything within an hour of the car accident. It was indeed an accident, but it was too much of an accident. They couldn't find evidence of intentional murder, but there was a fatal problem in the surveillance video. Qiao Jin was there. Zhu of the Feng family was suspicious of Qiao Jin. Now she saw a younger generation and Qiao Jin appear at the scene of a car accident at the same time. The younger generation of the Feng family died, but she heard that nothing happened. Other people might not understand, but Zhu felt cold after seeing the video. She definitely did something. This matter was related to her. Zhu gritted her teeth so hard that they almost broke. The impact of this incident on the Feng family was too great. Feng Yongshe's phone call was just the beginning. After Feng Yibing's mother woke up and learned about this, she cried and shouted for people to bring Qiao Jin over. She had to ask face to face what was going on. It was clear in the video that if Feng Yibing hadn't stopped to talk to Qiao Jin, he wouldn't have died. Others might think that this couldn't be blamed on Qiao Jin. It could only be said that her son was unlucky. But Feng Yibing's mother didn't think so. She felt that this girl killed her son. If it weren't for this jinx, Feng Yibing wouldn't have died. Before they even met, Feng Yibing's mother already hated Qiao Jin to the core. Even if she was innocent, if Feng Yibing had not stopped, none of this would have happened. Feng Yingbai naturally thought so too. Their Feng family would never look for a reason from themselves. When Qiao Jin woke up in the morning, Mu Zhenming had already gone to the company. Qiao Fei didn't know what was going to happen. Seeing that Qiao Jin woke up, he asked her with concern, "Did you sleep well last night, Jin?" Qiao Jin nodded. Mu Xiangshan sat on the sofa and looked at the news on his phone. He glanced at Qiao Jin but didn't say anything. "You were in a car accident. Mom was worried that you didn't have a good rest. The school has already applied for leave for you. You can go when you want." Qiao Jin shook his head. The exam just ended. I'm fine. I'll go tomorrow. Xiao Fei, that won't do. Before she finished speaking, a servant hurried in from outside. She looked a little flustered. Madam, there are people from the Feng family outside. They want Miss to go to the Feng family. Xiao Fei's expression changed slightly. Feng family? Why is the Feng family looking for us? She knew that Feng Yibing died yesterday, but she didn't think much about it. The car accident has nothing to do with our family's Jin. The servant just came to report. She didn't know anything. Mu Xiangshan's face sank. He stood up. Let them in. Ask them what they want to do. Why do they need to go to the Feng family? Chapter 203. The servant nodded and went out to bring him in. Qiao Jin just blinked quietly. Feng Yibing talked to me yesterday. Maybe they saw the video and wanted to ask about it. Xiao Fei was a little flustered. Feng Yibing talked to you before he died. Didn't you not know each other? Qiao Jin looked at her. Of course not. He stopped because he wanted to know my name. Hit on me. Xiao Fei, she could only say, this is too unlucky. But the car accident had nothing to do with her daughter. Who knew that such a tragic car accident would happen? The servant brought him in. It was only the housekeeper of Feng Yingbai's family who came. The Feng family was a big family. Except for some core members, of course, not everyone lived in the Feng family. Everyone had their own villa. This time, it was the housekeeper of Feng Yingbai's villa who came to the Mu family. The other party was quite arrogant. When he came in, his tone was a little rude. My master wants to invite Miss Qiao to go over and find out about the situation of the car accident. We also saw the video last night. Mu Xiangshan stood up. When he faced the housekeeper, he had the style of the Feng family when he was in charge of the Mu family. His voice was stern. We are very sorry about what happened to your son. We can only advise you to restrain your grief. We have already asked about the situation in the video. Jin and your son didn't know each other. Last night, he stopped the car to ask for Jin's name. With just one sentence, the accident happened. No one wants to see it. The housekeeper looked at Mu Xiangshan with a slightly gloomy expression. As for what happened, Miss Qiao needs to come forward and explain it to our master. The young master is our master's only son. Now that something like this has happened, he just wants to know it clearly and avoid some unpleasant scenes from happening. Mr. Mu, you should understand, right? Xiao Fei felt a little uncomfortable when he heard the other party's tone. We've already explained everything clearly. Jin and your son don't know each other. No one wanted this to happen. Mr. Feng asked our Jin to go over because of this. What else do you want to know? The butler's gaze landed on Xiao Jin, who was standing behind her. His eyes were like an eagle's as he said, I'm just here to pass on a message. The choice lies with Miss Qiao herself. I only hope that you can understand a man who can do anything when he's in extreme grief. Xiao Fei's face turned red. Are you here to threaten us? She stood in front of Xiao Jin and said, I won't let Jin go with you today. If you think we're at fault, then let the police be the judge. Yesterday's incident was already an accident. Even the police didn't come to our door to look for Jin. What's going on with you? Xiao Fei didn't know much about the Feng family. He only felt that the other party was too aggressive. Mu Xiangshan glanced at Xiao Fei and sighed silently. Xiao Jin pulled Xiao Fei's sleeve and smiled. Fei, forget it. I'll go with him. Mr. Feng is a middle-aged man. It's unacceptable that his beloved son met with such an accident. Young Master Feng said something to me last night. I'll explain it in person. Maybe Mr. Feng will find it easier to accept. The butler's face twitched. Miss Qiao is much more sensible than your wife. Is that so? Xiao Jin's smile became gentler. But you're quite insensible. Chapter 204. There was a hint of coldness in her words, but unfortunately, the housekeeper didn't hear it. He just thought that Xiao Jin knew what to do, but his face immediately stiffened because of her words. Mu Xiangshan frowned and looked at Xiao Jin. Are you going? Xiao Jin nodded. Mu Xiangshan thought for a moment and put his crutch on the ground. I'll go with you. No need. Qiao Jin refused lightly. You wait for me at home with Fei Fei. I'll come back after explaining to Mr. Feng. It won't take too long. What kind of place was the Feng family? For the current Qiao Jin, it was a den of devils. Mu Xiangshan was worried about letting her go alone, but of course, he couldn't show it too obviously. He just raised his head and asked again, it's not appropriate to go without an adult, right? Qiao Jin smiled, I'm already an adult. Can't I handle such a small matter? Xiangshan, you should rest at home. Be careful of high blood pressure. Mu Xiangshan, she had no sense of propriety in front of outsiders. Qiao Jin nodded to the housekeeper. Mu Xiangshan's face was gloomy. This is my Mu family's child. I hope that after explaining clearly, you can send her back safely. The housekeeper smiled. Of course, after explaining clearly, Miss Qiao will naturally be sent back. Qiao Fei was still a little worried and only watched worriedly as Qiao Jin left with the housekeeper. She didn't quite understand the angle of this matter. After being worried, she still called Mu Zhenming. Mu Zhenming was shocked when he heard that Qiao Jin went to the Feng family. Why did you let her go? After the incident this morning, the Feng family went crazy. Many people went to Feng Yingbai's place. He came to the company to deal with this matter, but now Qiao Jin actually took the initiative to go. This is too ridiculous. Now that Feng Yingbai's son is dead, there's already something wrong. Qiao Jin is still going there, He originally wanted to say that the Feng family had always been unreasonable, but when he thought of his wife's worry, he held back. He only said in a deep voice, I will rush to the Feng family now. Don't worry. Qiao Jin will be fine. At least, this matter had nothing to do with Qiao Jin. The Feng family might find trouble with the Mu family, but nothing should happen to Qiao Jin. He was not afraid of trouble, but he felt that he could not ignore it. He put on his suit jacket and asked his assistant to arrange a car for him. He then drove to the Feng family. Qiao Jin might have arrived a long time ago. He could only hope that Qiao Jin was just asking. On the way to the Feng family, the housekeeper and Qiao Jin sat in the last row. His face was gloomy, and he only saw Qiao Jin curiously looking out the window with a faint smile on her lips. He felt incomparable anger in his heart. The young master was dead, yet she could still smile. Miss Qiao, now that the deceased is in front of you, isn't it inappropriate for you to have this expression? What expression? Your young master and I don't know each other. We have nothing to do with each other. Qiao Jin looked at him strangely. I didn't kill him. Housekeeper, I didn't kill him. How could she say such a thing? The housekeeper's face became more and more gloomy. He only felt that this adopted daughter of the Mu family really didn't understand the ways of the world. When she arrived at the Feng family, she would know how powerful she was. Would the Mu family really think that this matter had nothing to do with Qiao Jin and simply let it go? Who told Qiao Jin to appear there at that time? The anger of Feng Yingbai's family needed someone to calm it down. The Mu family was finished. Chapter 205. When they arrived outside the Feng family villa, the housekeeper brought people in. At this time, the black and white cloth of the funeral had been hung in the villa, and the whole villa showed a suffocating and depressing atmosphere. What had already become a fact, no one could change it. Feng Yibing's body was transported back to the Feng family villa last night, and now the coffin was placed in the Feng family's hall. Many people received the news and came to mourn early in the morning. Because this was no small matter, many people from the Feng family came, including many of the Feng family's children. Some people put on a fake smile and didn't look sad at all, and even came to watch the show. After all, the Feng family's network was here, and the competition was so fierce, one death was one less, and they weren't real brothers. Even real brothers might not be sad for someone like Feng Yibing. At the very least, she was pretending to be sad. When Qiao Jin got out of the car and appeared, he attracted the attention of some people. The first was the Feng family. Many people in the Feng family saw the surveillance video last night. Because of the family's fortune, everyone paid attention. Now that they saw Qiao Jin appear here, they knew that Feng Yingbai asked people to bring him. Compared to the sadness of others, her expression was calm, and no sadness could be seen at all. Of course, the dead Feng Yibing had nothing to do with her, so what was there to be sad about? She stood on the ground, and the housekeeper whispered, "Please." But it seemed like a storm was about to come. She walked into the hall of Feng Yingbai's house. The hall had been decorated to look like a mourning hall. Feng Yibing's body was not cold yet, and they arranged it quickly. There were many people sitting and standing around. Most of the people sitting were old, and most of the people standing were young. The only difference was that they all looked very outstanding. They were all the children of the Feng family who were related to Feng Yingbai. When those people looked over at the same time, ordinary people might feel nervous. In front of Feng Yibing's coffin, a woman in a black dress was crying. From her expression, it could be seen that she was really desperate. Someone next to her comforted her in a low voice, and it wasn't difficult to guess her identity. The housekeeper said in the crowd, "Madam, Miss Chow is here." The woman who was weeping suddenly stopped crying. In an instant, she turned her head. When she saw Qiao Jin, her red eyes revealed undisguised extreme hatred. "You're here." Her voice was choked with sobs, but it sounded like she was gnashing her teeth. She was old, but it could be seen that she had taken good care of herself. At this moment, her beautiful face was just a little more haggard. Everyone in the mourning hall turned to look at this scene. Some people were waiting to watch a good show. Some of the men from the Feng family looked at Qiao Jin with amazement. She could probably understand why Feng Yibing had stopped in front of her. She did have the capital for Feng Yibing to strike up a conversation. Qiao Jin glanced at Feng Yibing's portrait in the mourning hall and then looked at her without saying anything. Seeing her like this, Feng Yibing's mother hated her even more. She sent off her son. Her son was already lying inside, and even the body was pieced together. This girl who should have died with him was so calm, as if everything had nothing to do with her. How could she have the face to think that everything had nothing to do with her? She couldn't help but suddenly stand up and walk quickly toward Qiao Jin. She raised her hand as if she wanted to slap Qiao Jin. But before her hand fell, Qiao Jin easily grabbed her wrist. Chapter 206. Qiao Jin's eyes turned from calm to cold. "I understand the pain of losing your child, but that's not a reason for you to go crazy. You want to hit me? You're really crazy." Feng Yingbai's wife was not the legal wife, but because the one who died was her son, Feng Yingbai's first wife did not come forward and let her cry here. After being an outside wife for a long time, her brain was probably not normal. Li Wujin, Feng Yibing's mother, looked at Qiao Jin and was particularly agitated. "My son died because of you." She still wanted to move her hand, but it was held tightly by Qiao Jin. When she wanted to move her other hand, Qiao Jin pushed her away. He didn't use much strength, and she was only pushed back a little. Otherwise, how could she withstand Qiao Jin's push? Qiao Jin said slowly, "Your son died because of me. Do you believe it yourself? I almost lost my life. What does he have to do with me?" The girl's voice was light, but each word was like a bell, with a sense of emptiness that made people feel comfortable. The people in the room were watching a good show. They were even more surprised that Qiao Jin dared to resist the Feng family. Even if Feng Yibing's parents were angry now, shouldn't she endure it? Did she want something to happen to the Mu family? Li Wujin trembled with anger. "What did my son say to you before he died? Wasn't it you who led him there? If he didn't stop in front of you, he wouldn't have died. You jinx." Now that her son was gone, her position in the Feng family and the favor she had in front of Feng Yingbai might disappear with him. And it was her own son. This made her heart collapse. Naturally, she could say anything at this moment. Qiao Jin's eyes instantly froze. "I came here just because Mr. Feng asked me to explain what happened last night. I don't know your son, so there's nothing else to talk about. You can go crazy, but if you dare to talk nonsense again, do you not want your tongue?" What a joke. She had lived for so many years. Who dared to say such nonsense in front of her? Others were afraid of the Feng family, but was she afraid? Her direct threat shocked Li Wujin. The people of the Feng family looked at each other. They never thought that the adopted daughter of the Mu family would be so bold. "Miss Chow, how dare you threaten my son's mother in front of his mourning hall?" threatening people from the Feng family. Feng Yingbai appeared. He was wearing a black suit and looked a little tired. At this moment, he looked at Qiao Jin with a sinister look. Qiao Jin turned to look at him, his expression indifferent. "Oh, Mr. Feng. Didn't you ask me to come over to explain? I've already explained that I have nothing to do with this matter. Instead, you insist on pushing me into this matter. Do you think that your son died because of me? Aren't you afraid that people will laugh their heads off if this matter gets out? How could a normal person do such a thing? They couldn't do it, so the Feng family was abnormal." Feng Yingbai was so angry that he laughed. "I know in my heart how my son died. As a mother, she was just too sad. At that time, if my son didn't stand in front of you, Miss Qiao, you would have died together with him. My son saved you, but you don't know how to be grateful. You even threaten his mother. You simply have no conscience. Say it again. Your son saved me." Qiao Jin's eyes widened. "If your son didn't stop the car and talk to me, I would have walked away. Then, there wouldn't have been an accident. I was almost killed by your son. You actually said that your son saved me. Who didn't know how to say shameless words?" Chapter 207. Feng Yingbai almost had a heart attack because of this sentence. Because he couldn't appear too fierce, he looked at Qiao Jin with an extremely gloomy face at this time. Some people could be shameless, but if others' words didn't go along with their wishes, they would feel uncomfortable. The Feng family was used to tyrannizing others because of their own reasons. Any normal person would feel that borrowing other people's luck was a shameless thing. Most people in the Feng family never thought so. They only thought that this was their family's ancestors' ability. Even if it was borrowing luck, such a mysterious thing, who knew if the Feng family's luck was that good? Even if there were normal people, in the high-pressure environment of the Feng family, they were not allowed to show different thoughts. This kind of atmosphere encouraged the arrogance of the Feng family's children. In the hearts of most of the Feng family's children, others couldn't compare to them. Feng Yingbai thought like this. How could an adopted daughter of the Mu family be compared to his son? With their Feng family's ability, it was too easy to make the Mu family collapse. The people who came to offer their condolences were extremely shocked. They didn't expect that an adopted daughter of the Mu family would dare to talk back to the Feng family like this. Feng Yingbai only pointed at Qiao Jin, his voice trembling. "My son is already dead. Not even a whole body was left. I'm sending off my son. Miss Qiao, if you have a little conscience, you shouldn't say such things." Qiao Jin was not moved by his words. He just sneered. "Okay, then I'll ask you. What do you want to do by calling me here today? Your son is indeed dead, but it just so happened that he was in the same car accident as me. I'm lucky. I didn't die, so what? What do you want to do by calling me here? Kneel in front of your son's mourning hall and confess my mistakes? Confess that I shouldn't have appeared in the same place as him?" Feng Yingbai froze. Indeed, this matter had nothing to do with Qiao Jin. Even if he was too harsh, it would be in private. He couldn't make it too ugly. Today, not all of the people who came were from the Feng family. There were so many businessmen. He couldn't let others see him as a joke. Feng Yingbai calmed himself down and forced a sneer on his face. "Okay, I understand this matter. It's true that it has nothing to do with you, Miss Qiao, but you were also implicated. Miss Qiao, why don't you kneel down and offer my son an incense stick?" In the end, it was still Qiao Jin who had to bear this responsibility. Qiao Jin stood there with a sweet smile on her face. "Is your son worthy? Are you worthy?" Throughout the entire human world, this was the first time she had seen such shamelessness. After all, no one in the past dared to be so shameless in front of her. Everyone in the hall sucked in a breath of cold air. Li Wujin couldn't take it anymore and screamed at Qiao Jin, "Woman, what is the meaning of this? You are standing in front of my son's mourning hall and you dare to say such things. You are so shameless." She didn't choose her words carefully. Feng Yingbai's eyes were also red from anger. He looked like he wanted to rush up and slap Qiao Jin to death. Just when it was a bit difficult to control, a voice came from outside. "He's already dead. Why are you still making a scene here? The tone was strict, with a kind of absolute majesty. Everyone turned to look. Feng Yingbai's expression changed greatly. It was actually Zhu. And what surprised Qiao Jin was that Song Yanqing was standing next to Zhu. He wore a custom-made black coat, as cold as pine trees. Chapter 208. But the moment he saw Qiao Jin, his cold temperament seemed to melt a little. The corner of his lips pursed into a very shallow arc, and he nodded imperceptibly at Qiao Jin. He seemed to be reassuring her. Qiao Jin wasn't worried about anything. When he saw Song Yanqing, he was just a little surprised. Although the Feng family and the Song family had a relationship, it was just a dead junior. It wasn't enough for Song Yanqing to come personally. When everyone saw Zhu, their faces immediately showed a respectful look. Especially when they saw Song Yanqing come, they were even more surprised. Song Yanqing didn't often appear in front of people, but there were still many people in this circle who had seen him. It was because they were too surprised and didn't know what his purpose was for coming here. Zhu was also wearing black, which represented a funeral. When he looked at Qiao Jin, his expression was very heavy, but when he looked at Feng Yingbai, he was even more furious. How did he raise such a group of idiots? Although Zhu and the others did things insidiously, their IQ wasn't low. They clearly suspected Qiao Jin. Now that the Feng family's junior had an accident in front of Qiao Jin, they should know that this matter was big even without evidence. The Feng family's fortune was destroyed, and the juniors had already begun to die. It couldn't be separated from Qiao Jin. But a woman who could cause problems in the Feng family's fortune definitely couldn't be underestimated. Zhu hadn't made a move yet, but Feng Yingbai and the other idiots couldn't wait to offend her. If she wanted to kill someone, dozens of Feng Yingbai wouldn't be enough. What's more, the most important thing now was to know what she did to cause a crack in the Feng family's fortune. No matter how much he hated, he had to endure it. What Zhu didn't expect was that when he came, he actually ran into Song Yanqing. Zhu didn't avoid this Song family's junior, but he couldn't easily offend him. After all, the Song family's foundation was there. The other party had nothing to do with Feng Yingbai's family. When Zhu asked, the other party said straightforwardly, "A child was in a car accident last night and was a little frightened. I heard that Uncle Yingbai thinks that she is related to the accident last night. I was worried, so I came to take a look." He didn't care about the dead Feng Yibing at all. Zhu knew very well who he was referring to. He didn't expect Qiao Jin and Song Yanqing to have such a good relationship. Last time, it was said that Song Yanqing had died, but in the end, he came back to life. Although this news was kept a secret, I heard that a girl once broke into the hospital. Zhu thought of something and immediately understood what was at stake. He followed Song Yanqing in and happened to bump into Feng Yingbai and his lover farting. Glaring angrily at Feng Yingbai, Zhu was furious. "Your son's body hasn't even turned cold yet. What are you doing in front of his coffin?" It was one thing to think in secret, but another thing to think on the surface. This car accident couldn't be related to Qiao Jin no matter how hard you tried. At least have some face. Feng Yingbai's lips were pale. Zhu. He was as afraid of Zhu as Feng Yongshe. There was no one in the Feng family who wasn't afraid of Zhu. Not only did they know the old man's prestige, but they also knew his terrifying methods. His face was blue, but when he thought of his son's miserable death, he was a little unwilling. His eyes were red, but his sadness was sincere. "My son." Before he could finish speaking, Song Yanqing, who had come with him, spoke softly with a deep frown on his face. "Does Uncle Yingbai think that your son's death is related to Qiao Jin?" Chapter 209. Because of the Feng family, Song Yanqing called him uncle. In fact, it was just seniority. Before this, Feng Yingbai hadn't even seen Song Yanqing's face a few times. With his status, it was an honor for someone to call him uncle. When he heard Song Yanqing speak, he instinctively felt that something was wrong. He looked at Song Yanqing, somewhat at a loss. Because he didn't know why Song Yanqing would come here. He instinctively felt that he couldn't directly say that it was related, but he was unwilling. "In the video, my son stopped to talk to her. He still wanted to press the blame to death. Qiao Jin couldn't hold back and laughed out loud, making Feng Yingbai glare at her with hatred. Song Yanqing's tone became gentle. According to what Uncle Yingbai said, why don't you just go and sue the person who killed your son? Those drivers are the main reason. It's the government's fault. They shouldn't have built that road. Otherwise, your son wouldn't have passed through there, wouldn't have met Qiao Jin, and wouldn't have died. Don't you think so? Feng Yingbai's face was ashen. Some outsiders heard Song Yanqing's words and almost wanted to laugh out loud. Yes, this wasn't just Qiao Jin. His son's appearance, there was a mistake. That road shouldn't have been built there. According to the Feng family's logic, no one walking on that road was innocent. Li Wujin couldn't help it. According to what you said, isn't my son even more innocent? What did he do wrong? He died in vain. When she received the news last night, she fainted. Now that she woke up, she kept crying. Her whole mind wasn't right. Feng Yingbai saw her yelling at Song Yanqing and hurriedly grabbed her. You, so? Song Yanqing's eyes gradually became cold. Uncle and auntie, now that you've lost your beloved son, I can understand your feelings. But in this matter, Qiao Jin is innocent. She also almost had an accident and was frightened. Uncle and auntie, why did you call her to your Feng family? Don't tell me you want her to pay with her life for your son. These words made Feng Yingbai and Li Wujin freeze. The others' expressions were also very subtle. The young master of the Song family was rumored to be as cold as jade. Who would have thought that there would be a time when he would be so overbearing? The key point was that even when he said these words, he spoke in a soft voice. His tone was not harsh, but every word was like a soft nail, piercing into people's hearts. Even if it did not hurt, it could not be ignored. No one dared to refute his words. At least now everyone could see that this young master was here to stand up for Qiao Jin. She just didn't know how he got to know Qiao Jin. How did they get to this point? It was nothing more than that between men and women. If they stepped out of here today, there would probably be big news. Song Yanqing was 25 years old. For a man, this was still the best age, but he had also reached the age where he should have some affairs. There hadn't been any news about it. Who would have thought that it would be here? How old is this adopted daughter of the Mu clan? It was said that she seemed to be around 20 years old. Who knew how outstanding she was to be treated differently by Song Yanqing? Although Feng Yingbai wanted to refute, under Arzu's ruthless expression, he did not dare to speak. Qiao Jin also did not speak. He just looked at Feng Yingbai with a slightly meaningful smile. Song Yanqing continued, Uncle Yingbai, so what do you want to do by calling Qiao Jin here? Every word and sentence carried a meaning that could not be ignored. The Feng family could be unreasonable. He could make the Feng family have to be reasonable. Chapter 210. Feng Yingbai didn't dare to say anything. Under Arzu's cold gaze, he could only force a smile. Yes, it was my lack of consideration as an uncle. We invited Miss Qiao to come over just to understand what happened that day. It was all a misunderstanding. We also know that Miss Qiao was frightened. We spoke inappropriately. What else could he do? He wasn't important in the Feng family. Arzu was also here. Song Yanqing was the noble young master of the Song family. His aunt was also here in the Feng family. No matter how bold Feng Yingbai was, he couldn't ignore Song Yanqing. He didn't have the capital. His son was dead. He had no way to find evidence that this matter was related to Qiao Jin. This matter had to pass. Li Wujin's eyes were red and swollen. She wanted to say something, but she was firmly held back by Feng Yingbai. Only then did Song Yanqing's expression gradually melt like a spring breeze. His tone was also as elegant and clear as usual. Since it's a misunderstanding, it's fine to talk it out. Qiao Jin is still just a child. It's easy to scare her with such a big scene. Feng Yingbai, did you see how she was just now? Qiao Jin blinked. The reason why she didn't say a word was to see what Song Yanqing wanted to say. Although she didn't know why Song Yanqing specially came, to be honest, as a friend, Song Yanqing was so protective of her. She was happy in her heart. She naturally wasn't afraid of the Feng family, but she didn't need to accept Song Yanqing's favor. Moreover, she had saved Song Yanqing and helped him awaken his identity as a spirit master of speech. There were favors, so she didn't think there was anything wrong with it. The Feng family was bullying others. Feng Yingbai naturally wouldn't let it go. On the surface, he could only swallow his anger. In private, Qiao Jin wasn't afraid. At this moment, seeing his forbearing appearance, she sneered. She walked to Song Yanqing's side and nodded. I wasn't scared. Song Yanqing pursed his lips in amusement. Of course, he knew that Qiao Jin was not frightened. Zhu didn't say a word because he knew Song Yanqing's purpose. He was also sizing up Qiao Jin. The more he looked at it, the more suspicious he became. When he came in, he had set up an array. If the other party was an array master, they would feel uncomfortable. However, Qiao Jin did not have any reaction. Could it be that it wasn't Qiao Jin, but someone behind Qiao Jin? He frowned. Since Song Yanqing was here to get Feng Yibing out, he had to be polite. He lit a stick of incense in front of Feng Yibing's portrait and left with Qiao Jin. At that moment, the others suddenly felt that Feng Yibing's death was too glorious. Even the young master of the Song family came to offer incense to him. When they went outside, Zhu was sitting in the car. Song Yanqing dismissed the people sent by Zhu to send them off and let Qiao Jin get in the car first. After getting in the car, Qiao Jin still said, in fact, you don't have to come here today. I'm not afraid of the Feng family. I also have my purpose for coming here. Since Song Yanqing awakened her identity as a spiritual master, she could not see the other party's movements very much. Song Yanqing paused for a moment, then nodded, I know, but I believe that what you want to do can't be done in a short time. Since the Feng family dares to bring you here, it's hard to guarantee that they won't do other things in the future. I'm here today. At least they know that I'm on your side, and they won't do anything to the Mu family. Qiao Jin thought about it. It was indeed reasonable, although she would not let the Mu family be hurt. However, as a friend, Song Yanqing was indeed thoughtful. She sincerely praised, you are a good person. Zhu. Chapter 211. Young Master didn't understand, but Tong, who often surfed the internet, understood. Wasn't Miss Chow's words a bit too hurtful? Could young Master's kindness be explained? He didn't see young Master being so kind before. He cursed crazily in his heart. However, when Song Yanqing heard Qiao Jin's words, he was a bit surprised and then laughed. You really know how to praise people. It was also the first time he heard someone praise him with the word good person. Qiao Jin nodded with a serious expression. I rarely praise others. People who could get a word of praise from her were very rare. Song Yanqing, it seems that I'm very honored. Tong, he felt that these two people were quite amazing. However, what else could a bodyguard say? He could only drive silently and send Qiao Jin home first. Mu Zhenming's company was a bit far away. As a result, when he arrived at Feng Yingbai's house, he received the news that Qiao Jin was picked up by Song Yanqing. Of course, it wasn't the Feng family who told him this news. It was those gossipy people. They all wanted to know the relationship between Qiao Jin and Song Yanqing. The dignified young master of the Song family actually went to the Feng family to pick up someone and even dissed Feng Yingbai. Although they also felt that Feng Yingbai's family was particularly unreasonable, they could understand that he lost his only son and went crazy. There were also some who didn't make it to the show and came late to offer their condolences and felt particularly regretful. After Mu Zhenming heard the news, he looked at the Feng family villa area in front of him and finally chose to return with a complicated expression. He worried too much. His adopted daughter didn't need him to worry about anything at all. Mu Zhenming quickly returned home, but at this time, there was only Qiao Fei and Mu Xiangshan in the house. When Mu Zhenming arrived home, he looked at the two and asked, Where's Qiao Jin? She went to school. She still has to check the results after the exam. Qiao Fei was a bit puzzled. When she came back, I also asked about the Feng family. She only said it was fine, so it's fine? Mu Zhenming paused. Mu Xiangshan looked at Mu Zhenming with a meaningful gaze. No one told her about Qiao Fei, But Mu Xiangshan had some connections. Someone reported the news to him. He roughly knew what happened in the Feng family. The main point now was not the Feng family, but Song Yanqing actually went to the Feng family for Qiao Jin. The significance of this was too extraordinary. Compared with the shameless Feng family, Mu Xiangshan was now only concerned about Qiao Jin's gossip. When did she have such a good relationship with that person from the Song family? For so many years, Mu Xiangshan had only heard of his existence from the mouths of others. In addition, when he retired, Song Yanqing just began to take charge of the Song family. Mu Xiangshan had never seen Song Yanqing before. Mu Zhenming was also a little confused at this moment. I'm not too sure either. I'll have to ask her when I come back. After all, she's my adopted daughter. There are many things that I can't ask too much about. She was an adopted daughter. She used to be raised by Qiao Fei. Qiao Jin had only recently returned to the Mu family. It was impossible to establish a relationship so quickly. Mu Zhenming knew that many things were wrong, but he was in no position to talk to Qiao Jin. After all, she was 20 years old. Why should he, an uncle who was not related by blood, care so much? Mu Xiangshan snorted coldly. She lacks discipline, so look at her. Qiao Fei suddenly felt wronged again. I used to teach Jin very well. Mu Xiangshan, I didn't see it. Qiao Fei. Chapter 212. After Qiao Jin was sent home by Song Yanqing, she simply told Qiao Fei that she was fine and then went to school. No matter how big the world was, it couldn't delay the release of her exam results. And this time's results were not out of Qiao Jin's expectations. They were quite good. Not to mention how amazing it was, at least compared to the decline of her grades in the past 6 months, her grades had recovered to their previous standards. Needless to say, her grades for the professional courses were excellent. With the help of Song Yanqing's notes for the basic courses, her progress was quite great. It was borderline excellent. At least next time, she should be excellent. Her grades couldn't be underestimated. In this school, there was a group of students who were particularly outstanding. Usually, their homework was guaranteed to be excellent. Basically, they were the top students in other schools. At least after the results came out, even the homeroom teacher specially praised her. You've made great progress recently. If you keep this standard, I don't have to worry too much about your studies. Now that you're a sophomore, you'll be a junior next year. Whether you want to take the postgraduate entrance exam or study abroad, you have to have a plan for your future. Qiao Jin nodded and smiled. I know. There was still some time now. She didn't think too much about the future for the time being. The most important thing was to solve the backfire of rebirth and get rid of the enemies who might still be alive. Then, she could plan for herself. This result could at least give Fei Fei an explanation. It would prevent her from nagging and feeling guilty all day long. Her grades were good, which proved that she wasn't affected by those things. This would make Fei Fei feel better in her heart. As for today in the Feng family, to be honest, Qiao Jin had no reason to be bullied. The Feng family was aggressive because they were used to being arrogant and domineering. They felt that no one in the world could control them. Qiao Jin reached out and pinched her wrist. A wisp of black gas drilled out from her wrist. No one could see it. Since the Feng family wanted to die early, she might as well fulfill their wish. She took the report card and was about to leave the school. Her footsteps were neither fast nor slow. Many people in the school were still muttering when they saw her. Is that Qiao Jin? Yeah, the one from the German department. She's so beautiful. Why is she different from what I remember? That's right. It's so strange. She's so pretty, yet she wasn't chosen as the department belle or school belle. Some people were discussing. Many of them knew Qiao Jin, but there were also some who didn't. The school was so big. Even if the matter on the forum caused a ruckus, it would at most attract the attention of the active group. There were also some who buried their heads in the books of the sages. Now that they saw Qiao Jin, they were a little stunned. Her beauty was imperceptible. It was just that at first glance, she didn't seem to have much of an impression in the past, but now, looking at her again, she felt that she had become much more stunning. Her facial features were still the same, but they had become brighter, more lively, and had an indescribable elegance. His hair was so thick that it made many young men envious, her back was straight and her posture was very calm. At this moment, a girl walked towards her. The girl was walking in a hurry and bumped into Xiao Jin. The person who was hit didn't have any reaction. Instead, the person who was hit felt a sharp pain in his shoulder as if he had hit a rock. She rubbed her painful shoulder and subconsciously raised her head to apologize. I'm sorry. However, the moment she saw Xiao Jin's face, she swallowed the rest of her words. Chapter 213. It's okay. Before she could react, Xiao Jin had already calmly said these words and left. The girl was left in the same spot. Her expression was uncertain, and there was a hint of disbelief. She hadn't seen Xiao Jin for a while. How did she become so beautiful? She couldn't tell what had changed, but she was beautiful at a glance. She was so beautiful that she was eye-catching and made people jealous. She was Yu Saik. She was the girl who had posted a post on the forum to slander Xiao Jin. She had been unlucky recently, but there had been an unexpected change recently. This made her panic. Now that she had met Xiao Jin, the shock in her heart was greater than the accident that had happened. Seeing the other party's radiant appearance, Yu Saik bit her lip. She couldn't help but feel jealous. Compared to Xiao Jin, her family background in the imperial capital was not bad. At least her family could provide her with food and clothing for the rest of her life. However, Yu Saik had been spoiled by her family since she was young. She didn't care about others when she did things, and she was only willing to believe in her own judgment. If others were just a little better than her, she would feel very uncomfortable. Now that she saw the girl she used to look down on getting better and better, while she herself was extremely unlucky because of a series of things, Yu Saik suddenly had a bad feeling when she suddenly bumped into Xiao Jin. She stared at Xiao Jin's back. In an instant, she felt that the bewitching voice in her head these past few days had become louder and louder. Following her strange behavior, a strange fluctuation seemed to appear around her. An inexplicable force followed the smooth stone floor under her feet and jumped in the direction of Xiao Jin. With a bang, a stone slab behind Xiao Jin suddenly exploded. It didn't hurt her, but the sudden movement made her turn around. The stone slab behind her seemed to have been blown up by something. It was now scattered into pieces, revealing the green grass below. There were screams from the surrounding students. How could a perfectly fine stone slab fly out like that? Xiao Jin's expression was calm. His gaze shifted from the pile of shattered stone slabs to Yu Saik. Yu Saik had already felt an inexplicable palpitation earlier. Now that she saw the stone slab explode behind Xiao Jin and not under Xiao Jin's feet, she actually felt an unreconciled vexation, and because of Xiao Jin's calm gaze, her heart inexplicably felt weak. She was afraid that she would see through something, so she hurriedly left. No one would link this kind of thing to a person. This was an accident. Xiao Jin watched Yu Saik leave. 2 seconds later, he turned around and continued walking out of the school as if nothing had happened. What did you do just now? If she had hurt someone, wouldn't they have a valid reason to take her away? In the dark, there were also 2 people who looked like students arguing. They were a man and a woman. The one who opened his mouth to question was the man, but the woman shook her head. I think something's wrong. The traces of demonization on her body aren't very strong. When she saw Xiao Jin, they deepened. Could it be that there's something about Xiao Jin that's bewitching? Also, this is a school. If she causes trouble, it won't be easy for us to clean it up. Don't forget that Xiao Jin has the ability to foresee. Could it be that she didn't know that this girl would attack her? Her expression was grave. She didn't react. I don't know what she's thinking, but since she's a student who hasn't completely demonized, there's still hope. Chapter 214. The boy scoffed. I've never seen a spiritualist who can recover after becoming a half-devil. The 2 of them were sent to follow Xiao Jin. Because they happened to be students of this school, they were responsible for Xiao Jin's whereabouts in the school. Outside, there were other spiritualists who were responsible for following Xiao Jin. Today, they bumped into Yu Saik. This was because she was a tagger on the spiritualist's recent arrest list. The so-called tagger was a half-devil spiritualist who had yet to be completely demonized and remained to be observed. The other party had only recently awakened. The reason was still unknown. Her ability should be to manipulate a part of the air and transform it into a substantial airflow attack. Just now, she wanted to attack Qiao Jin. The girl saw that the situation was not right and stopped her. Otherwise, the airflow would have exploded under Qiao Jin's feet. If it exploded under her feet, what if Qiao Jin was really injured? However, the information said that Qiao Jin had the ability to predict. The girl was confused. At this time, she shook her head and said, "Continue to observe. Yu Psych is not our target. We can report to the headquarters first." The boy rolled his eyes but did not object. The news of a stone slab suddenly exploding quickly spread throughout the school and was known by the leaders. Although the students were not injured, the principal was very worried about the school's recent feng shui. It was really not right. A large number of students had lost items. At a glance, it was obvious that it was because of all kinds of carelessness. There were also some minor problems. Now, it was the stone slab that exploded. There was a smell of bad feng shui everywhere. The principal was worried. The principal's hair was about to fall off. The principal decided to invite a master to check the school's feng shui. It was sneaky and could not be known by the students. Otherwise, a group of students who were receiving higher education would know that the principal had invited a master to check the feng shui. This school would not be good. Qiao Jin was taken home by the driver. Of course, she knew about Yu Psych. At first glance, she even knew that she was about to become a spiritualist. What did it have to do with her? No matter the reason, as long as she became a spiritualist and attacked her, it was a spirit seed delivered to her door. It would be a waste not to accept it. She went home first and showed her results to Qiao Fei. Qiao Fei was overjoyed. Compared to her son, who often told her good news, she knew how the university judged the results. Qiao Jin's results were excellent. She was finally relieved. Fortunately, after a month, Qiao Jin was not affected by the previous events. He even studied hard. She was such a good child. Seeing how happy Qiao Fei was with her results, Qiao Jin said, "Fei Fei, now that you're happy and they're not here, why don't you tell me about your past with Zhenming?" When Qiao Fei heard this, his face froze for a moment. But after a while, he felt a little complicated and muttered, "You want to know?" Qiao Jin nodded. "Yes, I want to know." Qiao Fei recalled the past and was a little worried. "Actually, there's nothing to say. He and I are the kind of how should I put it? To be honest, I don't quite understand why he liked me back then. His father's opposition to us back then was not without reason. Whether it was my family background, character, talent, or appearance, I'm not worthy of him," Qiao Jin comforted her. "Fei Fei, don't belittle yourself. You and Zhenming are actually very compatible. You complement each other." Qiao Fei's eyes lit up. "Really?" Qiao Jin nodded. "Yes, you're optimistic. Zhenming is smart." Qiao Fei, was her daughter humiliating her? Chapter 215. In fact, what happened in the past wasn't that dramatic. It was normal that Mu Zhenming and Qiao Fei fell in love with each other. However, at that time, Qiao Fei was indeed beautiful. She was the legendary naive and sweet girl, but her family background wasn't good either. Because Qiao Fei and Qiao Jin were the same, they had no parents. The reason why Mu Xiangshan didn't agree at that time was very simple. Qiao Fei couldn't provide help to the Mu family. The gap between him and Mu Zhenming was too big. At that time, he was still old-fashioned. Because he was in control of the Mu family, he had always been used to being arrogant. He also implemented a high-pressure policy on Mu Zhenming. In such a family, the father and son fought for decades. Only on the matter of Qiao Fei, Mu Zhenming didn't give in. Even after she and Qiao Fei had 3 sons, Mu Xiangshan still didn't agree to let Qiao Fei marry into the family. Qiao Fei felt that such a life was a little undignified. After all, she liked Mu Zhenming, but she couldn't stand someone rolling his eyes at her every day. She still had some backbone. So she didn't take her sons and left Mu Junming. It wasn't that she didn't contact Mu Junming for so many years, but she did adopt Qiao Jin to relieve her loneliness of not being able to see her sons. In addition, Qiao Jin was abandoned in an orphanage like her. Qiao Fei also really liked Qiao Jin and raised Qiao Jin to this age. Later, when Mu Junming completely controlled the Mu family, Mu Xiangshan couldn't take it anymore and went abroad. Mu Junming took Qiao Fei back. The two of them had been fighting for decades. As they gradually grew older, they became more open-minded about the past. There were no other disputes between the two of them, so Qiao Fei was very calm about returning to Mu Junming's side. Of course, because her 3 sons weren't by her side, they weren't very close to her. She also expressed her dislike for Qiao Jin, so she didn't take Qiao Jin back. Then, a series of events happened. Because of this, Qiao Fei still regretted. She was afraid that Qiao Jin would do something stupid. Now that things were over, Qiao Fei's eyes were still red. Do you think that Mom was particularly bad to you? If I insisted at that time, I could have taken you back home without your brothers. What's wrong with that? Qiao Jin's tone was relaxed. You don't have to think too much. You've already treated me very well. I was too extreme in the past. Everyone had to understand each other. Anyway, the matter was in the past now. She was no longer the cowardly Qiao Jin from the past. She would live her own life from now on. Seeing Qiao Jin's serious expression, Qiao Fei felt relieved. Qiao Jin continued to ask, so now that Xiangshan is back, he doesn't care about what happened to you? Qiao Fei smiled embarrassedly. What's there to care about? He's already so old. He's been causing trouble for a year. Since he chose to come back, it meant that he had at least accepted it. Otherwise, why would he come back? Didn't he feel uncomfortable looking at him? Qiao Fei didn't say it, but she could tell that Grandpa Mu's attitude towards them was awkward, but he didn't hate them. He was just like Qiao Jin's brothers. The corners of Qiao Jin's mouth curled up. Qiao Fei looked at Qiao Jin and suddenly said cautiously, Xiao Jin, actually, Mom has something to ask of you. Qiao Jin raised his eyebrows. Tell me. What is it? Qiao Fei was a little embarrassed. Mom thinks that it's fine if you call me by my name, but your Uncle Junming. If you don't call Dad, at least call him Uncle. Chapter 216. Considering that Qiao Jin was hospitalized some time ago, Qiao Fei didn't mention it. She didn't mind Qiao Jin calling her by her name, but Mu Junming was an uncle after all. She had to call him by his name. Of course, she didn't know Qiao Jin's real thoughts. Qiao Jin looked at her with a deep look. After a long while, he said, okay. A month had passed. Qiao Jin began to accept everything in the modern world. As for calling him by his name would make her feel at ease. Because she knew that if she only called his name, Qiao Fei would think that she had a problem with the Mu family. Although some habits couldn't be changed, some things still needed to be changed by herself in the modern era. She could learn the habits as long as she was willing to do so. Seeing that she agreed, Qiao Fei smiled happily. I know you are very sensible. As for your grandfather, Qiao Jin, I'll see. Qiao Fei, after talking with Qiao Jin, Muzichu came back. Seeing that he was alone, Qiao Fei wondered, where is your brother? Muzichu glanced at Qiao Jin behind Qiao Fei. I don't know. He said he had something to do. How could Qiao Fei not know Mu Chilian's character? He must have gone out to have fun with his bad friends. Instantly, he sighed silently. Muzichu looked at Qiao Jin and said lightly, I heard that someone from the Feng family came to take Qiao Jin there this morning. Qiao Fei was stunned for a moment. You already know about this at school? Muzichu paused. That was because the news had spread. Students also had their own circles. With Muzichu's status, there were also people who told him such gossipy things. Now, it was the Song family that was related to them. Song Yanqing personally went to the Feng family to pick him up. There would definitely be people who were curious. Everyone was now asking if Qiao Jin had a special relationship with Song Yanqing. Their Mu family was involved. Naturally, They could not escape the questioning of their circle of friends. Xiao Fei saw his unreadable expression and said, "I called him over to ask. It's not a big deal. Isn't your sister fine now? By the way, her exam results are out. She did pretty well this time. She looked like a proud mother." Musichu knew that Xiao Fei didn't know the truth. Most likely, no one had told her what had happened. However, this was also good. She did not have to worry about anything. He only exchanged a glance with Xiao Jin before turning his head away. "I'm going upstairs to read." Xiao Fei waved her hand. "Go ahead." Her second son had been preparing for a competition recently and was very busy. In this family, only Xiao Jin and she were here to relax. However, Xiao Fei was still thinking about Xiao Jin's future. She said in distress, "Jin, is there anything you like? For example, learning to play the piano or something. But it may be a little late to learn it now. How about I take you to horse races or watch musicals to cultivate your temperament?" Xiao Jin's eyes fell on her. "Do you like these things?" Xiao Fei. "To be honest, I don't like them very much." Xiao Jin, "Then ask me." Xiao Fei, "Oh, I just want you to learn something to distract yourself." She deeply realized that although Xiao Jin was good now, he was getting more and more difficult to deal with. "Don't you have anything else you want to do besides studying? It's good to watch movies with friends occasionally." Xiao Jin was thoughtful. "Friends? Then I'll ask Yanqing out." Xiao Fei, "I didn't ask you to ask a man out." Chapter 217. Xiao Fei felt that the relationship between Xiao Jin and Song Yanqing was too abnormal. She was a normal mother. Naturally, she would be suspicious. "What's the relationship between you and Song Yanqing?" Xiao Fei knew that the young master of the Song family was very powerful, but she didn't know how powerful he was. But she also knew that it was not something her family could touch. Although the Mu family and the Song family had some connections, it was not too special. Why did Xiao Jin suddenly have such a good relationship with Song Yanqing? "We're friends. He's my friend." Xiao Jin said it so naturally that Xiao Fei didn't feel anything wrong. Perhaps his attitude was too calm. Although pure friendship between men and women was rare nowadays, Xiao Jin did look like a pure friend. Xiao Fei was certainly not that stupid. She was suspicious. "You, like the young master of the Song family?" "Like?" Xiao Jin looked at Xiao Fei in disbelief. "Fei Fei, what are you thinking? He and I are friends. Why can't I have friends?" Xiao Fei, that was the truth, but she felt that something was wrong. "Friends?" Xiao Jin's tone sounded as if Xiao Fei was talking nonsense. Xiao Fei felt that she might be thinking too much. Yes, maybe they were friends. Moreover, Xiao Jin was indeed friends with Song Yanqing now. Even if Xiao Fei said so, Xiao Jin knew very well that she only regarded Song Yanqing as a good friend. After all, he was the only one who could talk about something with her. He was also good-looking. Why did Xiao Fei think that she liked Song Yanqing? What gave them such a misconception? Thinking of this, Xiao Jin corrected Xiao Fei seriously. "Fei Fei, I think your way of thinking is too dangerous." Xiao Fei, his daughter's serious tone made Xiao Fei feel that his thoughts were too wretched. She stammered, "I think too much. After all, young Master Song is a man. All these years, you've only said that he's your friend." Thinking of this, Xiao Fei also felt that his daughter's popularity was a little worrying. It seemed that ever since they came to the capital, Xiao Jin had never mentioned that she had any particularly good friends. The current Song Yanqing was an exception, and he had only met her recently. She was now the young lady of the Mu family. Wouldn't it be inappropriate if she didn't go out and socialize? Thinking of this, Xiao Fei asked, "Xiao Jin, do you have any classmates in school that you're close to? If you do, you can invite them to our house. Besides, you're 20 years old. If you have someone you like, you can tell him. I'm not that kind of old-fashioned parent." Xiao Jin, "No." Xiao Fei, after saying this, she looked at Xiao Fei in disbelief. "Fei Fei, are you too free all day long? How can you think of such a ridiculous thing?" Xiao Fei, wasn't it normal for a 20-year-old girl to have someone she liked? Now Xiao Fei completely believed that Song Yanqing was just Xiao Jin's friend. Judging from her tone and attitude, she didn't seem like a little girl who was in love. Xiao Fei suddenly felt a little worried. She didn't have anyone she liked at the age of 20. Was it because she didn't like the people around her? Her brothers were indeed good-looking, and her friends were at the level of Song Yanqing. If Xiao Jin wanted to be moved by others, it seemed a little difficult. Chapter 218. Xiao Fei and Xiao Jin's mother-daughter talk didn't last long because Mu Zhenming came back. Although he was busy with work now, since he was diagnosed with a heart problem, he was forced by Xiao Fei to come home every night for dinner to accompany the family. Even if he was free, he had to go to bed before 12 o'clock unless it was something that the company had to do. Otherwise, he would deal with it for Mu Qizhi, who was abroad. During dinner, Mu Zilian, who was playing outside, was also forcibly summoned back. Because of what happened in the morning, when Mu Zhenming came back and saw Xiao Jin, he specifically asked, "Did anyone go to school to find you?" He heard a little about what happened at the funeral and felt that what the Feng family did was unreasonable. He was also afraid that someone would really go to school to find trouble with Xiao Jin. Xiao Jin shook his head, "No." Mu Zhenming nodded, "Then it should be fine." After all, Song Yanqing came forward. If the Feng family also came forward to find trouble with Xiao Jin, it would be a bit unappreciative. Feng Yibing's death was not the main reason. Xiao Jin was not the main reason. Feng Yingbai was not an important person in the Feng family. It was impossible to offend Song Yanqing for him. Mu Zilian also heard a little, but he didn't express any opinion about Song Yanqing taking Xiao Jin away. He just curled his lips and said, after Feng Yibing died, the things he did were exposed. The Feng family is in a bit of trouble now. Mu Zhenming didn't directly stop Mu Zilian this time. Instead, he looked at him. What trouble? Mu Zilian saw that his father asked him, and he was proud of having an exclusive secret. You didn't see the internet, right? Feng Yibing died at the right time. During the investigation of the car accident, I don't know who exposed what Feng Yibing did on the internet. Although there was no information about his identity, he raped a girl and caused her to commit suicide a year ago. The girl's father also committed suicide after that was exposed. The Feng family reacted quickly. As soon as the news came out, it was suppressed. However, the person who leaked the news definitely knows about the Feng family and doesn't like the Feng family. No one dared to do this kind of thing before. Mu Zilian stopped mid-sentence. Mu Zhenming was clear even before he finished speaking. In the past, people didn't dare to say a word because of the Feng family's power. Now that Feng Yibing was dead, he exposed it. Although it wouldn't have any impact on the Feng family, it was obvious that someone didn't like Feng Yingbai and wanted to expose and stab him in the back. Even if they couldn't hurt him, they wanted to disgust him to death. His son was already dead, and he was still being exposed. Feng Yingbai must be angry. Although he shouldn't have the face to be angry. Suicide. It was the first time that Xiao Fei had heard about this. He was so scared that his face turned pale. Feng Yibing is such a jerk. Didn't you call the police? Where's the evidence? She refuses to admit it, and she has the protection of the Feng family. Mu Zilian was getting excited. Just as he was about to say something, Mu Xiangshan stopped him. That's enough. He hasn't fallen yet. Stop talking about it. Everyone, didn't this mean that they were waiting for something to happen to the Feng family before discussing it? This was just one of the sins that Feng Yibing had done. He was a person who deserved to die. Being crushed to death in a car accident was considered a light punishment. However, the Feng family was indeed in huge trouble now. Karma had begun to show its power. In the past, no one dared to expose things about the Feng family, but now someone was trying to fish in troubled waters. Xiao Jin curled his lips. Everything had just begun. Chapter 219. The Feng family now knew that something was wrong. The fate of the family couldn't be protected. With Feng Yibing's death, other juniors also began to have problems. There was one who caused trouble abroad and was directly detained by the foreign police. He needed to spend a large sum of money to bail him out. It didn't hurt them, but it began to gradually disgust the Feng family. It seemed that everything couldn't be stopped once it started. Of course, flies don't bite seamless eggs. If the Feng family didn't cause trouble, how could there be today's result? Even if they suspected Xiao Jin, they had no evidence. Especially when Xiao Jin was at home every day as if nothing had happened. He went to school as usual and didn't have any other schedule. The Feng family couldn't find anything to use against him. In the Feng family's Arzu's mind, array masters were powerful, but it was impossible for someone to be so powerful to do it without any news. Arzu felt that someone had secretly used a lot of strength. They definitely didn't dare to show up now. Xiao Jin was just one of the suspects, not the mastermind. So the Feng family had no clue who did it. During this period, Xiao Jin's fortune-telling shop had new movements. Jiang Hongbin, who came to the shop next door looking for trouble, went to the hospital for a physical examination. He checked his brain, and the result almost made him break out in a cold sweat. There was a shadow in his brain. In the end, it was found to be a blood clot. Fortunately, it was found in time. The blood clot was big enough, and the part was not too sensitive. It could be removed by surgery. The reason for his blood clot was that he fell and hurt his head half a year ago. At that time, he was fine and didn't take this matter to heart. He never thought that it would form a blood clot. There were many conditions caused by a blood clot. The doctor said that it might be the same as ordinary people, but if it wasn't found in time, it was easy to have a sudden death within a year or two. Fortunately, Jiang Hongbin was checked early. If the problem was found, the surgery could be done as soon as possible. Jiang Hongbin was dumbfounded at that time. Then he reacted and his whole body was cold. Generally speaking, if it wasn't for Xiao Jin's reminder, he wouldn't check his brain during the physical examination. For ordinary people like them, it was difficult to do a physical examination all year round. If the problem couldn't be found, he was also in the customer service industry. There was a high risk of sudden death at any time. Is this him? Jiang Hongbin immediately realized that he had met a true expert. Previously, he had thought that she was scolding him, but now he realized that she had saved his life. Jiang Hongbin broke out in cold sweat again. Didn't that mean he had offended someone? After setting the time for the surgery, Jiang Hongbin immediately went to Maro Bao to thank Xiao Jin for saving his life. Anonymous buyer XX. Thank you, Master. You're a god of fortune. I found blood clots in my brain today. Anonymous buyer XX. You saved my life. I'll drink a toast to punish myself for my previous recklessness. Today, yes. A master was indeed a master. Look at how calm he was in replying. What a good temper. Although they were all in the same profession, Jiang Hongbin was really convinced at this moment. After all, the blood clot in his brain was real. If it weren't for this master's reminder, he didn't know what would happen to him in the future. He didn't dare to say anything else, but when he saw that the master's cat treasure shop was so quiet, Jiang Hongbin's eyes turned, and he came up with a plan. His fortune-telling shop was opened casually. There was also a girl who did horoscopes with him. They were definitely the kind of people who were fooling around. Chapter 220. Jiang Hongbin had met an expert this time, so he simply put up an address under the link of his shop. It was considered an advertisement for Xiao Jin. After all, he had nothing to repay. He had the intention of finding trouble with Fang Ning, but who knew that he would find a truly capable master? This was what it meant to be unbelievably lucky. He worked in customer service, so he knew that if he continued to look for Xiao Jin, he might not be able to get anything out of it. However, he still had a glimmer of hope. Anonymous buyer XX. Master, I helped to advertise your shop in my cat treasure shop. It's just a small token of my appreciation. Anonymous buyer XX. I have already made an appointment for the surgery. May I know if my surgery was successful? Since the other party could see the shadow in his mind, it should be a piece of cake for him to calculate the safety of his surgery, right? Today, leave it to fate. Don't be greedy. Jiang Hongbin was stunned. The other party's words meant to remind him that since he had already gotten a chance, he should not forget it. As for the surgery, the hospital had said that the surgery's safety rate was 99%. Unless he was unlucky enough to encounter that 1% accident. Jiang Hongbin immediately felt relieved. However, he was surprised and doubtful. Why would such an awesome master bother to open an online shop? If he found a random person, wouldn't he be treated like a god? However, gods had their own ideas. Perhaps the other party was just following the trend. It was not a coincidence that Xiao Jin saved Jiang Hongbin. Finding trouble was one thing, but the other party would indeed bring business to him. He was very tactful. After knowing that Xiao Jin was awesome, the first thing he did was to help her in the shop. Although their business was small, it was not bad. It would bring some benefits to Xiao Jin. At this moment, Xiao Jin received a message from He Yarrow on WeChat. The other party sent her a message. A demonized spiritualist appeared in your school. Her name is Yu Saik. We have now received a mission to catch her. When Xiao Jin saw the message, she was a little interested. This time, He Yarrow had told her this news out of her own selfishness. She definitely wouldn't let the spirit group know about it. She told Xiao Jin that she clearly wanted Xiao Jin to find this demonized spirit reader master. This woman was quite interesting. Xiao Jin was indeed going to take Yu Saik's demonized spirit seed. She had already expected this, but she was still grateful to He Yarrow. It's Jin Jinyo, okay. But this time, she didn't intend to take it herself. Yu Saik could be Song Yanqing's guinea pig. Generally speaking, everyone's awakened abilities were not only different, but also different in strength. Some people were born strong, while some people's awakened abilities were only average. Otherwise, there wouldn't be a difference in strength. Just how strong was Song Yanqing? Just relying on the awakening of the Rakshasa realm was not enough. Xiao Jin needed to test it out. This Yu Saik was just right. Of course, she would not expose Song Yanqing. She sent a message to Song Yanqing, asking him to come out. She had something to tell him. Song Yanqing quickly replied. Xiao Jin glanced at the address He Yarrow gave. It was Yu Saik's house. Xiao Jin didn't care why Yu Saik awakened and demonized. But since the spirit group had already made a move, it meant that Yu Saik had done something irreversible. Then, it wouldn't be difficult to take this demonized spirit seed. Chapter 221. Yu Saik was in an apartment in her neighborhood. She was sitting against the corner of the bathroom in her house. She was wearing white silk pajamas and her face was pale. Her pajamas were splattered with red blood, and in front of her lay a dead woman's corpse. Her face was contorted, and her eyes were wide open. From the expression on the woman's face, it was obvious that she had died unwillingly and in an undignified manner. Yu Saik never thought that she would kill her cousin. She didn't do it on purpose, but her cousin's words were too annoying. She had only taken a liking to her cousin's boyfriend, but she came to her and made a scene. Yu Saik was noisy, and she just wanted her cousin to shut up. Who knew that she would lose control and kill her? Power surged out of her body, turning into a material weapon that drew the surrounding air and strangled her cousin's throat. She watched as her cousin's expression became more and more contorted. She watched as she struggled helplessly, and blood gushed out from her nose, eyes, and ears. Not only did she not stop, she even found her cousin's contorted face amusing. She had great power, and her cousin, who had always been aggressive, couldn't fight back at all. She had become the ruler of this area. But she didn't want to kill her. She was too weak, and in just a few seconds, she stopped breathing. Yu Saik looked at her cousin on the ground. Although her face was pale, there wasn't much fear on her face. She was just a little vexed and scared. Since young, her cousin had given in to her so much. So what if she gave in to a boyfriend? Would it kill her to give in to a boyfriend? Yes, it would kill her. She was dead. Yu Saik's lips curled up into a strange smile. Someone pushed the door open and came in. Saik, your cousin seems to be very angry. Her voice came to an abrupt halt when she saw the corpse on the ground. Then, a series of earth-shattering screams rose from the ground. Qian Qian. The The woman's shrill scream could almost pierce through one's eardrums, and it hurt Yusaik's ears. Seeing her mother come in, Yusaik seemed to have reacted. She revealed some fear and hurried over. "Don't scream, don't scream. It's not good for you to attract others. You can't let anyone see you." She could deal with one person, but she couldn't kill a group of people with her current strength. Mother would betray her, she would betray her. When she spoke, her eyes unconsciously revealed a trace of ferocity. The middle-aged woman in front of her had a pale face. She tried to cover her mouth, but she found that she could not control herself at all. She looked at her beautiful and intelligent daughter, but at this moment, she was like a man-eating demon. Yusaik knew that the person in front of her was her mother, so she could still control herself. She smiled and looked a little creepy. "Mom, don't scream. It's easy to deal with it if there's no one. Don't make such a fuss. Go get me a knife." Before she could finish her words, her mother let out another shrill scream. It was as if her throat was going to break from screaming. Her mother instinctively ran outside. "Stop talking, I told you not to scream." Yusaik felt very irritable, completely irritable. The moment her mother dashed out of the door, a suffocating force enveloped the air and forced her mother to flee. However, in the blink of an eye, the steel door of the apartment suddenly opened. A small knife shot out like a bullet, piercing through the air and shooting towards Yusaik. Chapter 222. The knife stabbed into Yusaik's shoulder. She couldn't dodge in time and screamed. Fortunately, the high-rise apartment had good soundproofing. If they were so noisy, the neighbors would have called the police. Yusaik clutched her shoulder and fell down. She looked up and saw her mother falling into the arms of a woman in a red coat. The woman had a high ponytail and wore a pair of gold-rimmed glasses. She looked valiant and sharp. Behind her were 3 other men and a woman. Hiyaro saw her and was furious. "She's already demonized to this extent. Why did you only call us to catch her now?" They saw the body on the ground and their faces turned ugly. Especially Yusie, his eyes narrowed as he looked at Yusaik. Yusaik immediately held her head and screamed as she rolled around on the ground. Yusaik's mother, who was caught by Hiyaro, had already fainted. Yishuadai was also shocked by the scene in front of her. She swallowed her saliva. "Damn, she killed someone. Is she completely demonized? Let's not talk about it." Hiyaro's face darkened. She stretched out her hand and the knife in Yusaik's shoulder flew out. Because of this, Yusaik screamed in pain again. At this moment, she gritted her teeth and suddenly waved her hand forcefully. In an instant, several strange air currents appeared in front of Hiyaro and the others and directly exploded in front of them. When Hiyaro and the others raised their hands to block, Yusaik crawled up from the ground and ran into her room. With a bang, she locked the door. Her actions were sudden. Yishuadai didn't expect her to have the strength to fight back after being attacked by Yusie. She glanced at Yusie subconsciously. Yusie's face stiffened. Hiyaro threw Yusaik to Hua Yangming and waved her hand. The door handle opened, but Yusaik's voice was gone. A series of banging sounds came from outside. Hiyaro saw that Yusaik's window was wide open. She walked over to take a look and saw that Yusaik was actually jumping down along the outside of the air conditioner. There was an air conditioner installed on almost every floor of the apartment, and it was hung in the same position for aesthetic reasons. However, it was too high up, and there was no protection around it. Hiyaro didn't expect Yusaik to be so bold as to jump down. Of course, she could control the air and stabilize herself. Seeing Yusaik jump down slowly, Hiyaro's face darkened. There were plenty of surveillance cameras outside. She would be too conspicuous if she made a move. Moreover, they were usually in charge of capturing people alive. If they were to make a move now, Yusaik would most likely fall to her death. In just a short while, Yusaik had already jumped halfway. She controlled the air and jumped very quickly, which attracted the attention of the other residents. When they saw someone jump down, they were dumbfounded. Hiyaro and the others turned around and ran downstairs. If they took the elevator, they might be faster. However, when she reached the last few floors, Yu Saik had already skillfully controlled the air to reduce her speed. She directly jumped down from the external machine. After a few floors, she landed on the ground. Although she fell in a sorry state, she was not seriously injured. At that time, he ran out of the neighborhood with a ferocious expression. There was something wrong with Yu Saik's ability. When He Yarrow saw the red dot that represented her land outside the neighborhood, her expression changed drastically. After being attacked by Yu Xie and himself, she was still able to control herself and escape. Chapter 223. Yu Saik ran onto the street in her blood-stained pajamas. Her crazy appearance attracted the attention of the passers-by. No one knew what was going on. Some suspected that she was crazy, while others called the police. But there was no doubt that it was dangerous for Yu Saik to appear in the crowd. She could expose her abilities and take the passers-by hostage. Usually, the spirit group acted alone and rarely received help. Because of the complicated internal structure, the various groups rarely cooperated. At this moment, He Yarrow felt extremely lucky that she had called Xiao Jin. Moreover, it was almost night time. Under the shocked gazes of the passers-by, Yu Saik ran forward. She knew that she was in danger and she had to run away. If the group behind her caught her, she would definitely die. She would die. She couldn't die. She hadn't lived long enough. How could she die? However, when she ran to a place, her body trembled imperceptibly. Then, she froze in her tracks. It was an elegantly decorated coffee shop with a low level of luxury. Across the road, she saw the second floor opposite her. In front of the transparent glass window stood a tall figure. He was wearing a cream-colored high-collared woolen sweater and a blue coat. He was holding a cat with tiger stripes in his arms. There was a faint smile on his face. Looking at her, he was cold and quiet, like the bright moon in the sky. His face was as handsome as a banished immortal. He was like a god. He had the most elegant and compassionate light. Every part of his body exuded a seductive aura. It made Yu Saik want to get closer to him as if she had smelled the most delicious candy. However, she froze in her tracks. There was an external voice in her mind. It was absolutely oppressive, but it also had a fatally seductive and gentle tone. Go back. Go back. She wanted to go back. She knew that she shouldn't go back. She couldn't go back. Yu Saik froze in her tracks. That seductive voice occupied more and more space in her mind. Her eardrums and her thoughts were all occupied by this voice. Go back. Go back. Like an endless cycle, this word kept echoing in her mind. Her body stiffly turned around. Step by step, she moved back in the direction she came from. She couldn't go back. She would die if she went back. Tears flowed out of Yu Saik's eyes. She couldn't control herself. Her body seemed to be controlled by someone else. When He Yarrow and the others appeared in front of her, she despaired. She could not summon the power in her body. It was as if she was being controlled by the word. Every organ in her body, other than her brain, was fulfilling the meaning of the word wholeheartedly. He Yarrow and the others were surprised to see Yu Saik slowly walking back. However, she had already attracted their attention. They immediately went forward to take Yu Saik away, using the Soul Group's tools to ensure that Yu Saik could no longer fight. Only then did they relax. He Yarrow subconsciously looked around, but she didn't see that familiar figure. However, Yu Saik's return for no reason had nothing to do with the other party. And in the same cafe, what Yu Saik didn't notice earlier was that by the window downstairs, a girl was sitting there with her chin propped up. Her seaweed-like hair was draped over her shoulders, and the corners of her lips were curved. She was as beautiful as a painting. Chapter 224. Someone passed by and saw this scene. He couldn't help but put her face in the photo album on his phone. Xiao Jin didn't stop him, because it would disappear for no reason. She ordered a cup of coffee and added a few packets of sugar to get rid of the bitterness. Her phone vibrated. She looked down and saw a message from Song Yanqing. Song Yanqing, okay. Of course, she saw it. Song Yanqing's strength was stronger than she thought. There was something strange about Yu Psyche. She wasn't an ordinary wizard. Someone maliciously put an enhancement array on her. This was something that only an array master could do. They could increase the potential of a spiritual psychic in a short period of time, and then destroy it. A wisp of black gas dissipated on her fingertips. She set up an array nearby. When Yu Psyche came over, she took the spirit seed. This enhancement array wasn't set up by the Feng family. She narrowed her eyes slightly. It seemed that another force was starting to emerge, putting an array on an ordinary female student. Unfortunately, even if there was a spirit seed, she didn't have many chances to investigate. At this moment, a woman with dyed blonde hair pushed open the door of the coffee shop. She was tall and had a great figure wrapped in a coat. She walked in a pair of high heels and looked like she was in a hurry. She ordered 2 cups of coffee at the counter and packed them. What attracted attention was that she was wearing sunglasses and a mask. This kind of equipment was either a celebrity, an internet celebrity, or a pretentious one. Unfortunately, it was covered so tightly that it was hard to see who it was. Qiao Jin recognized it at a glance. It was Fan Jin. She was a little surprised. It was mainly because Fan Jin's image in the past was that of a well-behaved mature woman. She didn't deliberately pretend to be young at 30 years old. The feeling she presented on TV was that of a mature woman. In the past, her hair was pure black. Now, her hair was dyed blonde and curled at the bottom. She covered it so tightly. In addition, she hadn't appeared for a while. She wasn't in the entertainment industry anymore, so the news was worthless. There weren't many paparazzi chasing her. Even if fans stood in front of her, they probably wouldn't be able to recognize her. Other than that, Fan Jin was calm. She just stood there quietly and waited for the coffee to be ready. However, as she was waiting, something caught her attention. She turned around and saw Qiao Jin. She was stunned by Qiao Jin's temperament for a few seconds. Even Fan Jin, who had seen many handsome men and beautiful women, was shocked at that moment. The girl in front of him had a kind of sacred beauty that even the entertainment industry didn't have. It was probably the kind where no one would say that the girl in front of them was unsuitable to play the role of a deity. He looked like he had walked out of a comic book. The other party stared at her and smiled. Beautiful people looked good when they smiled. Fan Jin nodded slightly at Qiao Jin. Then, he walked out with 2 cups of coffee. Outside, a low-profile car was parked. Fan Jin walked over and the chauffeur revealed an exquisite and lazy handsome face. He gave Fan Jin an obedient smile. "Sister." Fan Jin nodded. As he got into the car, he casually said, "There's a particularly good-looking girl inside. If I were still in the industry, I would definitely ask my manager to approach her." Phoenix Chenon raised his eyebrows slightly. "No matter how pretty she is, she's not as pretty as sister." Fan Jin smiled. "You're such a sweet talker. I'm serious. That girl is the only one I've seen. She looks so otherworldly. It's quite novel." Chapter 225. Actually, Feng Chenon saw it. He saw Qiao Jin sitting inside and knew that Fan Jin was talking about Qiao Jin. After all, the only one who could give people such a feeling was Qiao Jin. Actually, there was also his cousin. Recently, he didn't know what was going on, but the more he looked, the more he felt like he was going to become an immortal. No wonder these two were friends. However, now was a special time, so Feng Chenon wouldn't go up and greet Qiao Jin. He just smiled obediently and said, "No matter how different a woman is, she's not as beautiful as sister." Fan Jin waved her hand. "Don't be so sweet. When I left the industry, I was in a hurry. There are some things that I haven't dealt with yet. Next month, I will go to a remote town to see the left-behind children. I promised them that I might not be able to come to your birthday." The smile on Feng Chenon's face disappeared for a moment, and then he smiled brightly again. "It's okay, sister. This means that you keep your promise. Can I go with you? I've never been to such a place. My mother used to ask me to do some charity. My birthday is celebrated every year, but it's meaningless. If I go with you to see the left-behind children, will it make my birthday more meaningful?" Fan Jin was stunned. You want to go with me? She thought of something and frowned. I don't mind, but you've never been there before so you don't know. The conditions in those places are really bad. You've never experienced such hardship, so I'm afraid you won't be able to take it. The conditions aren't important. What's important is that it's meaningful, right? Sister, don't look down on me. Although I'm rich, it doesn't mean I don't know these things. When I was abroad, I worked part-time. How could this be a concept? Fan Jin smiled bitterly, but seeing Feng Chenan smile at her, her heart softened. Okay, I won't stop you if you want to go. Feng Chenan's eyes curved. Okay, sister. Qiao Jin finished his coffee and went upstairs to find Song Yanqing. There was a private room on the second floor. Song Yanqing was sitting there, playing with the cat. Ding Dang, who was walking around the table, saw that Qiao Jin had arrived and meowed before jumping into Song Yanqing's embrace. Song Yanqing stroked its belly, and it lay on its back, allowing Song Yanqing to stroke it without any dignity of a cat. Qiao Jin sat opposite him and asked straightforwardly, "Did you feel anything when you controlled her just now?" Song Yanqing looked at Qiao Jin and smiled faintly. I felt a struggle. It was very light. If it was very light, it meant that it could not be blocked at all. Song Yanqing's ability was awakened by the stimulation of the Rakshasa realm. Yu Saik was a spiritualist who had been bewitched by the demonization, so it was natural that she couldn't block Song Yanqing. His ability was that of a spiritual speaker. His thoughts were real. Since he wanted Yu Saik to return, Yu Saik had no choice but to do so. Even if she didn't want to go back at all. This was the terrifying part of a spiritual speaker. They could easily control your actions. This was under the condition that Yu Saik had some reaction. At a high level, Song Yanqing could even easily control a person's thoughts. If a person's thoughts were controlled, so the existence of karma had its benefits. Without restrictions, this world would have long been taken over by spiritualists. Qiao Jin saw him stroke the cat and lowered his eyelids. He suddenly reached out and said, "I want to touch it too." Okay. Song Yanqing lifted Ding Dang up without any hesitation and handed her over. Ding Dang saw that her master didn't even think before selling her out and she let out a pitiful cry. Her body stiffened and she stopped moving. You're tuning in to the Dreamy Chapters YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.